Gen Z, y'all getting drafted. Okay, maybe not, but there's this new report that they've increased the age limit for enlistment to 42, and they don't care if you've been convicted of marijuana or light drug possession. So the 42-year-old thing is obvious. They want older people to be able to join the military. I wonder why. They're also giving out steak and lobster to our troops. And the best part is the marijuana thing, because I'm like, okay, now they're basically saying we need to open up the pool a little bit wider. That one's targeting Gen Z. But here's the interesting thing. The real concern over the draft, immigrants are worried. Not a joke. This is the report. Young people are kind of like, I'm undraftable because they're just like hikikomori. If you know what that means, it means they sit at home and play video games all day and they don't go outside. But immigrants are like, uh-oh. And there's a lot of people saying, you know, it would be funny if Biden brought in 20 million illegal immigrants from Honduras, not for the economy, but to just unload them all in Iran. And then, as John Bolton would say, this time next year, we'll be eating plantanos and baleada in Tehran, which he never said, but would be absolutely hilarious if Iran just became like new Honduras. But the big news, of course, is, my friends, if you've been following this show, you are not surprised to learn that we are deploying the 82nd Airborne Division, 3,000 more troops to the Middle East. The speculation being this will be for the occupation of Karg Island, the key oil distribution hub for Iran. And we had been talking about this. We had heard rumors in the area about, you know, people who know other people who see them packing up and getting ready to go, rumors of deployment. And it appears that it's actually going to happen. As many are saying, this is increasing the probability that we will see boots on the ground in Iran. That being said, Donald Trump has said he's in peace negotiations with Iran, and they gave him a truly, truly wonderful gift related to oil and natural gas, but he's not going to tell you what it is. And that's good. But I got to be honest, all the while we're being told that things are winding down, but all of the military action we see shows a dramatic escalation. Now, there's another big conspiracy theory. I had talked about this 2019. An oil refinery exploded at 4 a.m. in PA. Several hours later, Donald Trump announced that he was canceling strikes on Iran. At the time, I speculated, could this have been a cyber attack? And Donald Trump pulled back on the attack to avoid an escalation of war between Iran and the United States. I don't know. Interestingly, yesterday, only a few hours after Donald Trump announced postponing the attack in Iran, an oil refinery exploded. Now, that's just some wacky speculation, right? Except a Saudi X account posted only a few hours before the explosion that just across the street, there would be an oil refinery explosion, and then deleted it. But it's too late. The internet is forever. It was captured and reposted, suggesting there was foreknowledge of this explosion at the plant, which makes one wonder, was this a cyber attack? We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more. Joe Kent says he's willing to testify in the trial of Charlie Kirk, which is being called betrayal. We got a lot to talk about. Before we do, my friends, we got a great sponsor for you. Yo, it is PocketHose.com. This is one of the best sponsors ever. It's literally a hose, and it shrinks, and you hook it up, and it grows. That's all you need to know, right? This episode is brought to you by Pocket Hose, the world's #1 expandable hose. Old-fashioned hoses get kinks and creases at the spigot, but the Copperhead's Pocket Pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and freedom to water with ease all around your home. When you're done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size for effortless handling and tidy storage. Plus, your super light and ultra-durable Pocket Hose Copperhead is backed with a 10-year warranty. The brand new Pocket Hose Copperhead with Pocket Pivot, it's a total game changer. Richard Karn from Home Improvement did a TV ad with Pocket Hose, and I thought it looked incredible. That's a script, but honestly, I actually did. And my wife and I were laughing like, look, they got the guy from Home Improvement. He's back, and he's selling hoses. That's incredible. The way it grows from pocket size to full size in seconds is amazing. And when you're done, it just shrinks way back down. For a limited time, all of the listeners of this show can get a free Pocket Pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text Tim to 64,000. That's Tim to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with your purchase. Tim to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. But of course, my friends, don't forget to also smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. It's going to be a big one. Joining us tonight to talk about this, we've got Carolyn Wren.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Who are you? What do you do?
I am born and raised in Austin, Texas. Moved up to D.C., was there for about 15 years working for friends of the show, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, AIPAC, other
friends.
Groups.
Oh, he nodded at AIPAC.
Yeah. Until I had a hard pivot when Donald Trump came out on the elevator, and now I'm firmly in the America First camp, and I run a lot of different campaigns, actually, against my old friends within the Republican, more establishment wing of the party. And
I'm sure they're happy now.
Well, I think they probably are happy now.
Yeah. Well, right on. It's great. It's great to have you.
Yeah.
Should be interesting. Of course, Elaad is here, but everybody knows you. We're not doing the introductions the way we used to because it's just everybody knows who Elaad is.
Elaad Eliyahu, Timcast News, White House correspondent. Happy to be here. Tate, what's good?
Tate Brown is here, of course.
We gotta bring up the speed. We're not doing intros anymore. They know who we
Not
are.
not for the regulars.
Like, does Tim
am I
need to intro
irregular
himself now? Like,
I've never
Tim Pool?
introed myself ever on this show. I've never said, hi, I'm Tim Pool. I've never.
Exactly. So if he doesn't,
I think I might have done it
the
one
same level.
time to be like, should I introduce
We're all
myself?
peers
Were we becoming
here.
too formal of a news show with the introductions?
No, it's like everybody knows who you are. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the guest needs an intro, but everybody else
Have
is
some
like.
confidence. A
And
lot
our
of people know
catchphrases
you.
were getting kind of lame.
Carter's here.
Yeah, it's starting to sound too rehearsed. So they're like, we don't like.
Not just that, but it's like we get it. We know who Tate is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
And
you got,
like
like, a
Ian's
big
gonna say something about
intro.
graphene. Ha 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 ha.
Catchphrase.
Did that doc ever drop?
Holding
It never
down.
will.
You know
will
how
it?
gay I feel?
Drop.
The graphene documentary?
Yeah, didn't it?
I think it's
Graphene
en
down the
route. I think Kevin is
Yeah,
editing
okay.
it right
Okay,
now.
you see, here's what we're doing.
It's in the
let's
graphene
get into the
pipeline.
news, my friends, and talk about what's going on. We got this from Politico. Pentagon prepares to send another 3,000 troops to the Middle East. The decision to move the Army's 82nd Airborne Division to the region heightens the possibility U.S. troops will enter Iran. No decisions have been made for troops into the country, according to defense officials who confirmed the planned deployment. But the buildup of troops is a drastic escalation. The 82nd has a quick reaction force that can deploy around the world within 18 hours, but it's not clear if that division will head to the region. The troops increase comes a month into U.S. military airstrikes against Iranian military forces and infrastructure, and amid spiraling gas prices as Iranian officials block access to the Strait of Hormuz, through which about a fifth of the world's oil passes. U.S. Central Command, which oversees the effort, said Tuesday that U.S. aircraft and missile attacks have destroyed more than 9,000 military targets inside Iran. Since the attacks started February 28th, military officials have said the strikes targeted Iran's missile launchers, Navy, and defense industrial base. Strikes have also killed dozens of the regime's leadership. The U.S. already has 50,000 troops in the region. The increase suggests the potential for more involvement, such as taking control of the strait by force. So it is being speculated heavily that we are going to occupy Karg Island, a small island in the Gulf where Iran does most of its oil distribution. Trump keeps saying things are getting better. We destroyed them. They're all but defeated. This is the end. We're having peace talks. But everything we're seeing from the military is suggesting an escalation. So I actually want to throw it to Elaad first because you've been like dancing on the table, tap dancing, excited with joy about what's going on. What do you think is happening? Do you think Trump is nearing peace, or do you think we are going to go in and just full-scale war?
So a few things. So far, I believe the war's going about as well as it could be, all things considered. Minimal amount of casualties. Of course, I think they're like roughly under 20. Of course, every death is of an American service member is extremely unfortunate, but these are the most patriotic among us, and we've all but decimated the Iranian army and navy. I think there will be issues, though, if we do reach the point where we do have a land invasion. Obviously, that would raise the casualties by a ton, and I don't know if the Americans could stomach hundreds of casualties. However, this does seem to be a choke point, Karg Island, where a lot of this oil is distributed from Iran. It's sort of the choke point for the economy of the Iranians, and holding the island would leave a lot of our American patriots and our American troops at risk from counterattacks more easily.
So do you
I think he wants to leave all his options open, the president.
Do you think we are going to go in? Do you think it is escalating, or do you think Trump is winding things down?
I think the president wants to leave all of his options open.
I didn't ask you what the president's going to. I'm asking you if you think we are winding things down, or do you think we're escalating?
We're escalating. We're ramping things up. The president could not leave this regime in power moving forward. The current Ayatollah, his entire family was killed by the president.
I think the
his
current
father was
Ayatollah
killed-
is actually dead too.
Yeah, well, if he's not dead, he'd have a lot of reason to try to to avenge his father, of course. So I don't think we could moderate this current regime, and I think the president knows that. So I think if we leave these guys in power, they'd probably race to the bomb. And I think that's what the president's mindset on this issue is at this point now. We've done way too much damage to not take the regime out.
Is this the most you've ever supported Donald Trump? Like,
Look, I knew the president was not going to allow this regime to get a nuclear weapon because he's been crystal clear on this issue for decades. I know a lot of people like to project their politics onto the president and pretend that the president is flipping a new script all of a sudden, but he's actually been extremely consistent when it comes to this issue about Iran not being able to get a nuclear weapon. And actually, I saw Michael Tracy actually quote this, the president talking about this 20 some odd years ago, saying how he would take Karg Island if it came down to it, if push came to shove. So I don't know. You must be a little bit conflicted. It sounds like you worked for a lot of neocons in the past and now have kind of, I don't know, it would be too supportive of an act like this. It seems like John McCain's wet dream. Maybe you would know a little bit more about that than I would.
Yeah, I'm conflicted on it, especially since I spent so much time working for, I feel like, that wing of the party. And then I left it in like a kind of public breakup. I did a lot of interviews about it. And now I feel like I'm right back in it. And I am very nervous about this. Well, one, I didn't want any more, foreign intervention. I still don't fully understand what the purpose is of why we are there. Also, Iran is an extraordinarily complicated country. It's 90 million people. You have 19 different religious factions, and also they don't care about human life. So when you say that, like, if we take Karg Island, and yes, it'll hurt their economy, but like the Iranian regime doesn't give a shit about their economy. Like they can let their people starve, and all they have to do to win the war is just outlast us. And so what we've seen this before when Donald Rumsfeld went on TV and told us that we were going to be going to Iraq for 2 days, and then it was 2 weeks, and then it was 2 months, and Rumsfeld went out there, and it's the exact same thing now. They're telling us 2 days, then 2 weeks, then 2 months, then it's 2 years, and then it's 20 years. And so having said all of that, I'm praying and hoping for the best, and I do think President Trump is a wonderful commander-in-chief and a great leader, and I do think it's preposterous that like Netanyahu can just walk in and tell President Trump to go do something and he would do it. Trump is famous for bringing in a lot of different opinions, letting people duke it out, and then making a decision. So if there is an off ramp at this point, I would love to see it, but I don't see how there is an off ramp. I think that now's a good time to buy Raytheon or Palantir stock.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, that is kind of, I think it's almost maybe a miscalculation. I don't know if it's a miscalculation. I think it's consistent with the Don Roe doctrine, which is, again, when you're negotiating with these countries, you assume they're all self-interested, they're all driven by economic gain, these sorts of things, and that's worked very well thus far through both Trump administrations. That's kind of the miscalculation, I think, with Iran, to your point. They're driven by things that are sort of detached from, like, tangible assets, right? We're talking, like, oil, energy, right, economics by and large. Like, they're driven by fanaticism. Right. And I think that is the point that these Iranian hawks are making. That's correct, is they are driven by fanaticism. That's an argument against getting into a prolonged war with them because, again, like you said, Iran, for victory for them is just surviving.
Yeah, they got nothing but time.
Yeah. Well, we need to introduce OnlyFans to Iran.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile.
Maybe then they'll be so distracted and degenerate that they'll just stop caring about anything other than getting money and selling oil.
Look, maybe I'm confused, but I think there is a serious threat from the Iranians. I think there's credible evidence that they've had assassination attempts against the president. They chant death to America and death to Israel. There's a lot of evidence of them interested in acquiring a nuclear weapon, or at least getting on the precipice of it. They do fund proxies and do have the death of American service members on their hands. But I don't know. I'm sure you've heard that shtick.
Let me ask you a question on the first point that you made. So was Trump wrong after the 12-day war when he said they set it back 10 years on the nuclear program?
Yeah, he was wrong.
So that was...
Look, I'm not here to try to defend every single thing.
I'm not suggesting you are. I'm just saying, like, the 12-day war was a failure. And, the expectation was they were going to go in, stop, and didn't work, and now here we are again.
I think the 12-day war was a failure if the goal was to completely decimate their nuclear facilities.
They escaped with the material. There's photos of the trucks.
But in a certain aspect, the 12-day war set us up for this war because Israel was able to take out most of Iran's air defenses. So it set the situation up such that we could advantageously have this opportunistic war right now. And I mean, I said this at the top of the show. All things considered, I think this is a good use of American power. And fortunately, the casualties have been extremely low, and I hope they continue to be. I think we have a kill-death ratio of something like 1 to 100. Still, obviously, all these deaths are too much, but I went to a Pentagon briefing with Secretary Hegseth the other day where he said he went to the dignified transfer for a couple of soldiers that were killed, and the families told him to finish the job and not let his death and these service members' death be in vain. So
it just
That's where my mindset's at. I know you guys also like represent like a wing of the party, an emerging wing. It's hard to say what exactly is going on though, because according to many of these polls, Republicans at least, are trusting the president's plan and are letting him cook. It seems as though you guys aren't.
That's true, but he needs independent voters, and the Republicans need independent voters if they want to win in November. And this message that keeps going out like, well, Republicans are behind Trump. It's like, congratulations. We always knew that. Democrats have always been opposed. Republicans always support. It's the very thin middle that you need to convince, and they are not being convinced. Now, you can call it whatever you want. I honestly believe a good portion of these quote unquote podcaster personalities would say whatever the advertiser dollars direct them to. I'm not going to call out anybody, but I'm not talking about Tucker Carlson. I don't know what his deal is or what he believes or why he's doing what he's doing. A lot of people have accusations, but he's got something going on. Like, I mean, and I don't mean negatively. I mean, like, whatever it is he's doing, he's doing. But there are certain personalities that have no business in politics that I guarantee you, if you went to them with like a $10 million deal and said, just, don't be mean to the president, support him, they'd say yes. They'd say okay in 2 seconds. Because these guys, these middle of the road guys, don't know anything about the region or politics or otherwise. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I'm saying when someone who doesn't know where Iran is tells me what they think about this war, I question their motivations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not tuning into like the Theo Von show for like a nuanced take on geopolitics, but like it is worthwhile. Like, I think the useful polling that we would need to see is what did first-time Trump voters, what do they think about the war? I think that would give you an indication of like the status of the coalition, because everyone is declaring that the 2024 coalition is dead, et cetera, et cetera. And you do see polling like within MAGA it has 100% support. It's like, yeah, because that's what like it selects for. It selects for people that are in favor of decisions Trump makes. So again, if you're against the Iran war, then you're probably not considered part of the MAGA polling like group anymore. And that's when you would need to go back and look at that initial batch of 2024 Trump voters, really determine how popular is this war. And then again, it's like I think even President Trump is starting to realize that this might have been a miscalculation. You're seeing on his Truth Social feed, like it's kind of like he's a little upset. Like it's kind of clear he's saying like we're just going to bomb all their energy fields, and then he'll come back around and say Israel shouldn't have done that. That was a mistake. It's like I think he's starting to realize that we might have undercalculated what's going on here.
Let's jump to this story from Task and Purpose. Army raises enlistment age to 42, removes waiver for marijuana possession. Hey, that last one, that's for you, Gen Z. So they want to make sure they can get as many people as possible in. And so I can imagine they're having a meeting like, what do we do? Well, why don't we allow older people to join? Hey, look, 40's the new, 40 is the new 30, right? These guys can still fight. And they're like, what about young people? Well, why can't we recruit young people? They smoke too much weed. Let them in anyway. So it looks like when you get a story like this and they're saying they want to increase enlistment, and so they're changing the rules instead of offering incentives, it sounds like they're really trying to get a lot of people in right now. And of course, there have been concerns. At least I would argue they may be fake, but the left liberal media has been reporting fears of a potential military draft over this conflict. What people need to understand about Iran, 90 plus million people. This is not Afghanistan. If you think it was hard, if you know that it was hard enough for the U.S. to deal with goat herders with AK-47s in a desert country, imagine what it's going to be like going to a mountainous 90 million person strong country. They can take out military targets, but you do not get regime change with 90 million people without occupying that country by force.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I think the Trump administration, I don't actually expect them
Elaad, how old are you?
Ramp it up.
I'm 32.
You are well within the age for enlistment.
And you're coming with me too, Belty.
Not me,
You're
dude.
40.
They won't let me in.
You have 2 more years.
No, I'm high net worth. They won't let me.
Oh, so make me high net worth. Save your boy.
What do you mean, Elaad? You like this?
We're going on a quick trip.
Don't you want to go?
Tate are going to eat a lot of gourmet sabzi, and that's the only Iranian food.
Is
Is
that what they eat? I don't know.
Gourmet sabzi? Yeah.
But wouldn't you want to go there and contribute to the war effort?
Yeah.
Like if Trump said like, if he was like, Elaad, I want you to go in and help us win.
Oh, if the president asked me, I definitely would.
What if what if he hands you a gun and is like, you're on the front line first in? Boats landing tomorrow.
If I was fully trained for it, then if that's what my fate is. Look,
no. Hold on.
People who sign up to be in the army are genuinely the most patriotic among us. I don't think we should treat them as children too. They know what they're signing up for.
Agreed. I'm asking you.
Yeah.
I'm saying and
I don't have that dog in me.
This is not a joke, right? I'm not being silly. I'm saying, let's say we've stretched our physical force to its limit, and the president says we need any able-bodied man who fits this category, whether you're trained or otherwise, we'll give you basic training, but we need you. Would you say yes?
Yes, I think there should be a draft. I think there should be national service. I think that's one of the things we should actually copy from Israel. I think everybody should have skin in the game in our society, and I think it would help with actually our assimilation process.
But specifically,
it would help with a lot of
to go on the ground in Iran.
To be part of the most powerful military that's ever existed, and to know that if anything happened to me, the KD would be 1 to 100. Yes. Yeah. No, there's a price. There's a big price on my head for every American service member who is hurt in Iran. There is 100+ Iranians paying the price for that. And these are patriots among us. These are the bravest among us. We should honor them and thank them, for allowing us to live this free lifestyle.
I'm just imagining
we live on the backs of patriots, of dead patriots. Our freedom exists on the back of brave men who are willing to fight.
That's right. I'm just imagining, it's like the boat crashes on the shores of Iran, and then like Elaad runs out and he looks to his left, and there's Lindsey Graham, and Lindsey Graham's like, I can't believe I'm fighting alongside you, Elaad. And he was like, what about fighting alongside a friend? And they go like this, and then they run in together.
Well, because that reminds me of Ukraine. We had the Reddit waffen get deployed. And they kept posting with all the metadata in there, and they would just get their sites blown up all the time.
Man.
I don't want to romanticize war, but isn't there something so romantic about, you and the boys fighting against the ops, and Tate, if you got hurt, shot in the arm, and I'm holding you in my arms and saying no, and then avenging your injury.
Yeah.
No?
No, I love it.
I don't mean to fetishize that, but it's there's something so
there's just I can
alpha
think of
about. I don't mean to even use that sort of rhetoric, but
I'm stuck on
conquering your opponents.
But there's still 30 to 40 countries. If my group chat could get together, that we would invade before Iran. India comes to mind.
Oh, not
invade
even
India?
Cuba?
Oh yeah, dude, we'd be storming the shores.
I hope
because of the call centers.
Because of the call centers. Because of the smell. There's we would be all in. A D-Day would look like a birthday party, quite frankly. If my friends could get landed on Goa or something.
I would invade Antarctica.
Okay.
Just to get over the ice wall to see what's on the other side. That's right.
That seems like a guaranteed failed mission, though.
No, man, there's nobody down there.
Well, I guess the Koreans, they'd see you and be like, he's one of us. Oh, my God.
The Koreans?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because people don't know this, but outside the ice wall, just all Koreans. There's 43 billion Koreans.
He is home.
You didn't know this?
No.
Yeah, so Earth is
43 billion. That's
so Earth is not flat; it's round, right? But what we know as the world is actually a small portion of the planet, surrounded by an ice wall, where the 43 billion Koreans keep us in as slaves.
It's true.
That's the only true conspiracy
We'll
theory.
put
Is
this
that
clip
one.
up. There won't be a single community note.
So I think if we zoom out,
Elon's going to be like, maybe
Can't even do my Elon right now. I got to lock in for that.
the ice wall.
I need some weed, and then I can still get to.
I would invade Cuba.
Yeah,
I think that's
it's right
coming
there.
too.
But Hassan beat us to it.
There's no Hard Rock cafes there. That makes me mad.
I just love the idea of Hassan eating a really nice meal at a 5-star restaurant, and there's a bunch of starving kids outside shivering.
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't be shivering because it's Cuba, but
remember when
I imagine they are anyway.
And they're doing the thing where they're literally throwing food out. Remember how mad they got at Trump for shooting the toilet paper and was it Puerto Rico?
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah, and that was awesome. And he was still giving him the stuff. Yeah.
Throwing the
He
toilet
was doing
paper.
step backs. I was like, whoa. It was like James Harden.
He did a 360 dunk with the toilet paper.
Yeah, just
Some little kid caught it.
on Bad Bunny's head, and that's when he's like, I'm gonna become a libtard when I grow up because of this.
That's
happened.
what. Yeah, that's
It's
right.
canonical.
Origin story of
That's
Bad Bunny.
Yeah, that's lore.
To come full circle for a second back to this story.
Right.
I think this was on the list of 3 different things to increase military recruitment, and that was way overdue. Of course, expanding the age range, but also this waiver for marijuana is very overdue. I think there's a lot of people who could serve despite having minor possession convictions. I think there was also one other thing, and that's the grooming standards. As I understand, there's a strict grooming standard in the military, and black people deal with this differently than other people because their beards grow in differently, and it's very curly, and
Shaving causes ingrown hairs and stuff like that.
something like that. And it's actually a serious issue where it affects the amount of black people that could be recruited. So these are big changes that could,
Bro, I know tons of black people that don't have beards. I don't know. I don't understand this.
I couldn't tell you.
I think they just want beards.
Well,
I think they look cool with their beards.
I was at a meeting in the Pentagon recently, and this marijuana thing came up because they were actually talking about it in the context of how Trump has been talking about how he wants more ship making in the United States. But like to build ships, there's not a labor force here in the United States, and even to build out the ports to have to do it, they were struggling with it. And really, it came up with me like the biggest problem was marijuana possession or use. If you like when you become a contractor for the Department of War, even if it's just to build this facility or to enlist, you have to say that you've never, smoked marijuana before. And so that takes out like almost all of the workers that you would have to do like some construction jobs like this. And so there was really no way to proceed with building these huge new bases and things Trump wants to do without removing that waiver.
Yeah, I don't mean to sound like a pothead, but that seems like an unreasonably high bar to pass for some of these gigs.
High bar to pass.
Damn.
Don't smoke weed.
Look, we're legalizing weed, so doesn't it seem like there's some contradictions here?
I think it's more so just we want to get as many people as possible to sign up, and we're going to remove the restrictions. I wouldn't be surprised if, if we actually did invade Iran and we were in full-scale war with 90 million people, I know that's not the entire size of their army or whatever, they'd be like, send in the crackheads, meth is next.
That's what I'm saying. If you tell them there's fentanyl in the nuclear reactors, get them, and then drop all the homeless in, this war would be wrapped up in
No, what you do is you fly over Iran with all of the addicts, and then you give one carrier with a bunch of crackheads, one with a bunch of meth heads, one with a bunch of heroin addicts, and then what you do is, as they're all like sitting there like freaking out, you walk up to they open the hatch or whatever, and then he dangles a bunch of baggies and says, "You guys want this?" And he chucks it out, and they all run full speed and just jump out to go get it.
There wouldn't be a single copper wire left in Iran after like a week. They'd just be yanking them out.
I think peyote's big around.
Peyote?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so that could be an incentive for some folks.
Those people are tripping. Yeah. Wow.
There's a lot of we could send a lot of groups over there. It'd be really exciting. The Somalis. They're here. We should use them.
So we have pallets.
Pallets.
We have grant forms for medical hospice and daycare centers, and then we kick it off the back of the plane and be like, "There it goes," and they all jump off.
Oh man, it's a shame we took out their navy because we could take their ships. We could have
Navy?
we could have had the Iranian ships if we sent the Somalis.
Oh, I thought you meant the Somali Navy. I'm like, you mean like guys on speedboats with
That's what I'm saying,
ARs?
because we sunk all the Iranian boats. We could have just sent the Somalis and we could have captured the boats and then sold them. Or
Like a
maybe the
reverse
homeless could have
Captain
strapped them.
Phillip.
I don't know. We had some options here.
I'd say if they were putting mines in the strait, I was like, why don't we just capture some of these Iranian ships and just make them go first?
Yeah.
Follow the boat, right? You'll find out if the mine's there real
a
fast.
good idea.
Yeah, why are we sinking it? Let's use
Because
it
if
as
you
a-
sink
it's a
any
mine.
boats in the strait, then it's too shallow and it will potentially mess up the.
Well, that's why we had to use
sorry.
carg. That's why we had to use carg in the first place. Is because the coastline is too shallow, and so the carg is the only place that the tankers can actually get into.
Let's jump to this story. We've got this from WKDZ Radio. New search data shows surge in draft anxiety among immigrants following policy shift. What? That's right. A rise in online searches related to U.S. military drafts is revealing growing anxiety among immigrants and non-citizens following recent changes to federal law that automate selective service registration. A new report from Mendoza Immigration Law found that Google search activity in March of 26 spiked dramatically, with some searches increasing by as much as 5,000%. The data suggests a growing concern over how personal information collected through draft registration could be shared across federal agencies. If Joe Biden brought in 20 million illegal immigrants, and the play was to send them all to Iran, I ain't even mad.
Patriot, quite frankly.
Like I was saying, as John Bolton would say, by this time next year, we'll be eating baleada and plantanos in Tehran.
It's like 5D chess.
We need more cannon fodder.
I don't even know what that is.
Brilliant.
It's like the baleada is, or I don't know how to say it properly. It's a Honduran burrito, I guess, like a quesadilla or something. And then plantanos. You don't know plantanos?
Plantains?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we call them plantanos.
We don't
They're
here.
just small.
Not in this.
They're
Not in
just
West
like-
Virginia. We don't.
They're just
Actually,
like-
they do. When you go to the restaurant, it says plantanos on the menu.
Yeah, can I get the small nasty
have illegals
bananas,
here?
please? That's
No, bro. Is that a
Undersized
joke?
banana.
Is that a joke? Do you have any idea? Tate, that is embarrassing. I am embarrassed for you.
Yeah, can I get the shriveled up nasty
They
bananas?
fry
please,
them
with the side
in
of
butter.
Fried corn.
They fry them and caramelize them in butter, and then give you creme fraiche.
And imagine if it was a banana, it'd be even better. But instead, it's like the shriveled up. I'm like,
No,
what are you doing?
you're wrong. See, when you caramelize the plantains, they are sweet and delicious, but bananas would melt and break apart. So anyway, the point is, could you imagine if like the Israelis finally go into Iran to like finalize the occupation after the country's been conquered. And when they get to Tehran, it's just basically Honduras. There's like just burrito and taquitos everywhere, and everyone's speaking Spanish.
Well, you're connecting some dots for me because if this was a long game by Biden here, then lifting the marijuana restrictions would make sense for Hunter to be deployed if this is a Biden family operation here.
Yeah, Hunter goes.
Well, but they didn't lift the crack, so he's still out.
Yet.
Not yet.
Did we ever find out whose bag that was in the White House?
Hunter's.
Was Hunter?
Probably.
Remember, on the patio, he's like sniffing around, goes and turns around.
I was like, that's kind of encouraging if the White House staff is doing coke. That means they're getting everything done. Really
but it was outside the situation room. So why Hunter was in there is a greater question that we have not gotten answered.
So they've already there was already a couple legislators a few years ago that were trying to get a bill passed to grant citizenship to illegal immigrants if they serve in the military. I would not be surprised if a big reason that Biden was like, bring as many as possible in, is because they're going to go to them and say, you go fight for us, and when you come back, you're a citizen, knowing that a lot of them ain't coming back, if any at all.
Would you be open to something like that? An illegal, if they served our country patriotically over, I don't know, let's say the course of 4 years, then they could have like a pathway to citizenship?
They have the French Foreign Legion, and you aren't actually given a pathway to citizenship unless you get hurt or you did it for like 5 years.
Yeah, I think it would have to be an extended service, like 8 years, not a single 4 year. So, and you got to consider that there's a darkness to this question, because what you're basically saying is most of them aren't coming back. If we said we got 10 million males of fighting age, as everyone was pointing out, and we're going to just drop you in the country and just take it over. Like, we got narco gangs. Why is it that Joe Biden wants so many rapists and murderers? And no, we need to keep them because we're going to drop them in Iran and let them just do their thing. It's kind of like if you took a cat and threw it into a rabbit pen and just like watched what happened.
Yeah.
That cat would go nuts. It'd just be mauling everybody, and the rabbits would be freaking out. Now, honestly, the rabbits might actually kill the cat, but 10 cats. So the challenge there is some bad people might come back. I get it. But while I would like to say yes, understanding that what you're saying is, 6 million are probably going to die. If we actually, this is a country of 90 million people.
And if you do like a Foreign Legion, you also have this problem. The French Foreign Legion had this problem is since they were, they're having activities in Western Africa, a lot of Western Africans would go and join the French Foreign Legion and then come back and start settling scores right away. Mm-hmm. So you just have, it's like, where did Emmanuel go? And he's like burning down like a rival tribe's village with the French
Double agent problem.
So we'd probably have like a similar issue with like these guys just going back to like the Middle East and just settling scores.
I got to be honest. I mean, I don't understand why this isn't like a standard military tactic. It seems really obvious.
Just getting a bunch of like rapists and deploying.
Well, they're not all rapists. They're just guys from Honduras of low skill, and it's just like,
it's like 50%.
We're gonna give you a gun.
Coming for our
It's like
jobs.
50%.
Even our soldiers' jobs aren't safe from illegal immigrants.
I know, dude. They're H1 being the soldiers.
It's the soldiers now too, bro.
Sorry,
Americans can't do
wait.
anything. There are no true.
But hold on. Like, what is the argument against this? Do we send our soldiers to go fight, or what if we could just be like,
the argument
Honduras?
against it is entitlements. We can't afford it. So we can go serve in the military even 4 or 6 years, but we can't even.
I never said anything about. I never said giving them
You give them
entitlements.
citizenship, though. When you let them come back, or you give them citizenship.
The
then
ones
they
who come
haven't been
back.
paying into Social Security or taxes.
How many are going to make it back?
Well,
That's the point of the
this
question.
Is the argument
Look, if
to
you're
buy
20 to
Greenland,
30
because then you give them, they go and fight, and then you give them at the end of the war, they get a plot of land in Greenland, and they get to live there.
There you
work
go.
the land.
Or no, we give them Canada.
Yeah, they can run the data centers.
We give them where they
one massive
conquer.
data center.
To be honest, the data centers should be in colder regions.
Yeah.
I
Iceland,
don't know
they're
either.
starting to build some too because they've got geothermal, which is actually a great source to use energy instead of taking it from other things that we're using. Geothermal.
And it's cold, so data centers use a lot of water to cool. So, but no, my point is, most of the people ain't coming back. Like, if you set them on the ground in Iran for a full-scale invasion, they're not coming back.
Well, look, we had roughly 3,000 casualties in Iraq, and
Or wait, you just go back on your word and leave them there.
Or no, we give them the plot of land in Iran.
Yeah.
40
They have
acres
to
and a
take
camel.
it over, and then they get it.
What kind of? They don't have camels
Oh,
in
in
Iran, do
Iran.
they?
That's
I
interesting.
think they probably do.
Probably do.
Something.
Why not?
Yeah, it's like
They have
the
elephants.
Silk Road. I feel like cross through Central Asia.
40 acres and a camel,
Yeah, on the side of a mountain.
where
I like
most
it.
of Iran is.
I like it.
You like that?
I like it.
Do you want your own acre in Iran?
40 and a camel.
It's not a bad idea,
And then when we take over Canada, we get 40 acres and a moose.
Yeah.
Yep.
It might be nicer in some parts of Iran than some
Well,
parts
there's
of
the big
country
real
here.
estate development happening in Gaza too. So if they're a really good fighter, maybe you get one of those new beach.
Oh, I'm buying in
Properties.
Gaza.
You
I'm
get an
buying
apartment.
all the land.
Yeah.
Mara Gaza.
Yeah.
All
want an
of Gaza,
apartment.
I will buy.
But that's like a Purple
Inside.
Heart situation. Yeah, if you kill 200 Iranians and you get a place in Gaza or something.
It'd be like the arcade where like everyone they give you like a ticket and then you go to like the counter and you can exchange for like your plot of land or like you can get a penthouse in Gaza City. You get like 200 kills.
Yep.
Beautiful thing when you really think about it. And everyone, no one speaks English, so like they're like the friendly fire rate's like through the roof. Like these guys are just mowing each other down because no one's speaking the same language. They're talking about plantains. Tim's like mansplaining plantain stuff.
They're women.
When you caramelize them,
Yeah, I'm like, sorry, what am I, a
they
chef?
turn into sweet treats.
All I see is gross
cream
shriveled up
fresh.
bananas.
That's all Catholics.
Would a
who do
chiquita
famously
kill
well.
anyone? I mean, like
You're showing your white boy ignorance here, insulting the delicious.
my being Americanness.
Bro, have you never had mango?
Mango.
Oh my God, dude.
Mangoes?
You guys are just
Hispanic
they
influence
fry
on this guy.
cheese. They fry. This is Caribbean, bro. This is West.
South
this
of
is,
the border
That's where I
is
go to
all-
vacation. I go to
This
vacation.
is
there and I eat their
European
food.
colonizers.
I eat Hard Rock.
They
Cafe.
came in and they massacred the natives, took their food and fried it up. Mango, you take boiled mashed plantains, you fry salami, and you fry cheese, and you put it on top with pickled onions.
This is just illegal immigrant food. I'm not eating this.
No way, dude. It's like the
I'm not
most
eating this.
delicious.
Do they make it on the
breakfast
street too?
ever. No, man, they make it in restaurants. I went to a it's like Dominican. I think it was a Dominican restaurant, and it's my favorite breakfast. When I used to work at Vice, I would always go for breakfast at this that's right, the 3 hits. So amazing. And that's what I get for breakfast: fried cheese, fried salami, boiled and mashed plantains, and I'd be like extra pickled onions. And this funny thing happened where there's like the Hispanic guy working behind the counter. He was like, man, he's like, white people love yellow rice. And I thought it was like a black dude. He was there and he was talking to the Hispanic guy. And then he said, don't white people love yellow rice? And then the guy working there was like, yeah, man, they do. And I kid you not, right, this is in Williamsburg, right where he says it, a white dude walks in, hipster flannel and glasses, and slicked back hair. And he walks up and goes, can I just get an order of yellow rice? And then we all started busting out laughing. He didn't know why. And I was like, damn.
That's me. When I go to like Mexican restaurants, I'm getting like the chicken fingers, like a burger. Not eating the
Wendy's.
Oh yeah, what is this? It's fried corn with cheese and beans. That's every meal you can order in a Mexican restaurant is some variation of corn, beans, and it's like someone chewed it up and vomited. That's what it's like. Every single one.
What,
Sometimes they
Mexican
deep
food?
fry it. Sometimes they deep fry it with the text.
Have you ever had a chimichanga?
Yeah, it's a deep fried version of beans, cheese, and
Deep
like
fried burrito, bro. You stuff that thing with cheese. You deep fry it.
heaven.
Bro.
Heaven forbid I want something like made from flour.
Have you ever had? It is. What are you talking about? A chimichanga is a flour
No,
tortilla
it's like
deep fried.
corn.
No, it's
and-
not.
You can't tell. It's all deep.
Yes, you can. What are you
it's
talking about?
and it's
bro,
smothered in
burritos are
beans.
flour tortillas. Have you ever
it's
had
covered in beans.
Bro, have you ever had fried ice cream?
No.
Oh my god.
Why would you fry your ice cream? What is this? We can't. This is why we can't let these people in the country.
No way, dude. You've had fried ice cream, right?
I don't think I've had fried ice cream, but I've
I
had a lot of
have had
Mexican
fried ice
food.
cream.
Fried
It's
They
ice
take
delicious.
a ball of ice cream, they dip it in batter, and then deep fry it real quick. It's a deep, and then it's not, the inside's still cold, but they fry the outside real quick. It is the most delicious thing
It's a
ever.
bit too decadent. It's a
Heck,
bit
it
much.
really,
How
that's
long
Put
does that
chocolate
last?
and caramel sauce and whipped cream and a little cherry on top. You know what really pisses me off is these cheapo places now, what they do is they roll a ball of ice cream in cornflakes. And I'm like, no.
That's just.
That is an offense.
Batter
That is
ice
an
cream.
offense to my country.
I'm getting married next weekend, and I'm doing
Oh,
my
congratulations.
rehearsal dinner, and I'm not a fancy person, and so I'm just getting a taco truck, and I've got all these guys coming. I was like, you know what? Let all the family come in. They think they're
Illegals
coming to
or-
Palm Beach for like a fancy wedding. No. It's backyard taco truck.
Because correction, with the Mexican food, that is the one exception. Is the tacos do have some variation to them. Everything else, and it's numbered. That's a
You can ask
I'll
for
have the number.
flour tortillas and not corn.
But it doesn't matter because you
Massa.
can't tell because they're slathering it in like tomato juice and beans every single time and cheese.
Fair
It's
enough.
the same like 4 ingredients, but the taco they switch it up. I respect that. So that being said, they all need to be deported, but still, like I respect that.
Well, we can keep their food.
That's true.
Did you guys, do you remember that story out of, I think it was Seattle, 2 white women opened a taco shop and the activists demanded they shut it down because it was cultural appropriation?
I'm glad I feel like we passed that phase.
Sounds familiar.
That era, I feel like, is a bygone era now.
It is.
I don't know if and it's a happier time now.
Because it was like white people realized the dreads looked
We gotta-
stupid on
you know
them,
what?
So it stopped becoming a fight.
I'm not even playing. This was Mary's idea. We got to open a North Korean barbecue.
And it's brilliant.
Not even joking.
Yeah.
They don't eat meat there. They can't
eat
afford
each
to
other.
eat meat. In
Yeah,
North
they just-
Korea?
Yes.
Some do.
No, they
What?
eat.
They have cows, bro. What are you talking about? They're
No,
just
only
starving.
the richest there. They're too poor to afford
No,
meat
you are wrong.
on a regular basis.
You are incorrect. It is harder to get because they're all starving, but they eat beef. They raise cattle.
Yeah, like maybe once a month.
No, the Olympians that lose, they eat them.
So I think we actually have to do this. I need to find someone who can open a restaurant. It was Mary's idea. You open a Korean barbecue, but everyone's dressed in like North Korean jumpsuits.
Yeah.
And then when you order like a pound of brisket, they give you a half pound. I go, that's a pound. And then like when you walk up to it, we're going to do a trick with the windows where inside looks really nice, but when you walk in, it's actually dingy and gross.
Yeah.
Or it's actually, you don't want it to be gross, but it'll be like plain. Like from the outside, we'll do like, have you ever seen those screens? They're see-through with like a mesh. I don't know how they do it, but like at arcades, they have this thing where it's like, it's glass you can see through, but it's a touch screen as well. We'll do that. So from the outside, it looks like there's candles and a nice TV, but then you walk in, it's just very plain. It'll be delicious. We'll make it good food. North Korean barbecue. I bet we'd be packed every day.
Yeah. You'd have a lot of defectors.
We would get a
Kitchen
guy who
staff
looks
goes to
like
the
Kim
other
Jong-un
Korean
to be like the main dude at the restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah, you would have like a kitchen staff defect to like the normal Korean restaurant and they get like hauled back in.
No, what we do
Work
is
extra overtime.
every hour we stage an error where like the like a guy will run up from the back of the kitchen being like, I'm so sorry, I messed up your order, I'm so sorry. And then he gets dragged into the back room and you hear screaming.
You'd also have to have like anti-American propaganda of history stories playing on the screens.
But like pictures of Trump, he's great because Kim Jong-un likes him.
He likes him.
Dennis Rodman, of course.
And Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. We got to do it because I love Korean barbecue. It's delicious. So,
And North
let's
Korea,
go.
I like it.
Let's go. Let's jump to this next story. Check this out. This is big news yesterday. Massive explosion at crude oil refinery rocks Texas City as residents told to shelter in place. You may have seen the story. We don't know the. I think they've gotten only a preliminary.
The sheriff came out like immediately after it said it was a fire that caused an explosion in one of the like engines or something. And then they did a press conference this morning that I watched it.
Shortly before this, Donald Trump announced he was postponing strikes on Iran. 7 years ago, June 21st, 2019, Donald Trump came out and said he was calling off an attack on Iran because the casualties would be too great and it was disproportionate to Iran had shot down a U.S. drone. So he's like, no, we don't want to kill that many people over this. We're not going to do it. However, a few hours before Trump made the announcement, a refinery in PA exploded. At the time, I speculated this could be what's called ICS sabotage or industrial control system sabotage. That is, we know for a fact our adversaries have hacked into our industrial control systems to destroy them. We do the exact same thing. And it's largely viewed in cyber warfare as a mutually assured destruction moment, a Mexican standoff. Every country's got their finger over the button that would destroy the critical infrastructure of adversarial nations. Now, here's where it gets interesting. This morning, I speculated saying, look, I really don't know. Probably just a coincidence, right? Except I was unaware of, not this post here from @Amuse, who tweeted, a Saudi X account posted a specific threat against the Port Arthur Motiva refinery 1 hour before the nearby Valero explosion in the same city. He deleted the post and all 4,739 of his previous tweets immediately after. This account is a Saudi X account created in April of 23. Connected via Saudi Android app, posted a specific warning that Motiva Enterprises in Port Arthur, Texas, the largest U.S. refinery at up to 720,000 barrels a day, would be destroyed within a week. The post went up about an hour before the Valero refinery explosion rocked the same city. The user then deleted that warning. Now, here's the thing. The Valero facility is across the street. It's literally, they're next to each other. This can't be a coincidence, right? Apparently it can be.
Give it to him, Tate.
I don't know. He's Saudi.
I don't believe a thing I read on Twitter. Unfortunately,
This is a real tweet.
No, I know.
I went
No.
through
This guy
X
did
account
tweet this
last night before it was all wiped.
This guy did tweet this.
Oh yeah, he was highly online too, and he was clearly Saudi. But like I went through, he wiped all of his tweets, but all of his when he tweeted at someone, you could still read it. So I just put in his thing, and like he was. I don't know if he's like a terrorist or something, but he's just always talking about foreign policy and stuff. But he absolutely sent that 1 hour before. Like there's no AI here or something. That tweet was up. Like there's enough screen grabs. It was coming from all over the place. And it is, I mean.
But this could be one of those things like, the people that will like tweet the prediction of a sports game like a year before. But they tweet like 100 predictions. So one of them, when it does hit, they delete all the other ones, and they're like, "See,
possibly
I got that right." And I think he may have been.
You think?
What I've seen is that
You
he
think
may have
he
tweeted
just
a bunch of different predictions?
tweeted a bunch of this is going to be a bunch of different targets.
A bunch of refineries and.
I could tweet the president will attack Karg Island on this day.
No, but if you
give every day.
I read 200 of his tweets last night,
Okay.
and like
And
there
he
weren't many prediction, right? Because I agree. If there was just a bunch being like he's going to hit, this facility or wherever, and you tweet 100 of them, and you just this was I think the fourth or fifth largest refinery in the United States. 720,000 barrels a day is a ton. This will affect oil prices in the United States.
No, it's real.
We don't know how much damage has been done, but if that facility were to go down or offline in what is already a very delicate oil market, it would be very bad.
Well, it exploded, and that is going to cause problems. It wasn't the Motiva, but it was right across the street from it. And I believe there's a very strong probability that these things are ICS sabotage. This is basic cyber warfare. This is the first level of cyber warfare. It's rudimentary. I've seen demonstrations. It is not hard to do. I think one demonstration I saw at the Black Hat convention in Vegas, security researchers said only a couple lines of code can blow up any refinery. Any industrial chemical plant, water processing, they use the same pumps, and you can do a couple of things. You can set the pressure limit high so that the pressure keeps building up until a pipe bursts. And then what happens? They say a pipe burst.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's it.
And Valero, from what I understand, people could fact check this, but this is from what I understand. They're headquartered in San Antonio. San Antonio is military, city USA. There's like 4 bases there. And Valero is also the primary defense contractor for like energy supply for a lot of the Air Force specifically. So I did see people speculating that, look, if there were going to be, a foreign attack on a refinery of some sort, this would be the number one target. This is like, it would be kind of obvious almost, as again, you go for Valero because Valero is a domestic oil producer and they are the defense contractor of choice,
This refinery processes heavy crude, which is what Venezuela has, which is kind of interesting because Venezuela and Iran had some deep ties. And so if Iran wanted to retaliate against Venezuela's new, working with the U.S. government, then hitting this facility would makes sense.
And it seems largely like the very pro-Iran war, pro-Trump factions are the most, I don't know what the right word is, a combination of skeptical and offended. The response that I've seen are that the most ardent of Trump supporters are like, this is ridiculous, it never happened, because the implication is that we are being attacked. And they don't want the narrative to be that Trump gets involved in this war and then the U.S. is paying the price domestically in any way.
The one thing that could turn a hawk into a dove in this country is high gas prices.
Yeah.
The one way to drop support very quickly, even among the most hawkish of us, is for gas prices to go up by $1. That's
And
really
they have.
all it would take. I think it's been like 50, 60 cents so far, the national average. But once we start seeing $4.50,
But
it's
a lot.
just like an ad against the president. And
Isn't a buck or two worth it for having a clean conscience?
it's hard for Americans to see tangible results.
I asked you a question. Isn't a buck or two worth it for having a clean conscience?
Yeah, it is.
That's a Colbert quote.
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert said that.
It is
I
much
think-
more than a buck or two, though, because it's going to be a buck or two. It's going to go to, I think, $175. If you saw the United CEO put out a press statement yesterday that they're preparing to raise all flights by 20%. So you start to do your flights and then also oil prices. That involves everything from, you driving to work, planes, machinery that you work. But then on top of that is 70% of the world's fertilizer supply comes from there. Fertilizer is food. It will decimate our food supply. Not only, in the United States, we're a little bit more insular to that, but allies across the region, across the country, the fertilizer is like just as you could see a massive famine from this in places like India.
I've become less and less concerned with our allies as it becomes more abundantly clear that they are just spineless and not willing to help us when it matters. It seems as though they're more of a burden and drag us into things more than anything else. I think Scott Bessent put it most succinctly, though. He said, we're going to have to deal with 50 days of higher prices for 50 years of no Iran nukes. So I think that's the current pitch from the administration. I think there are things that we could do to help curb the issue of high gas prices in the United States that we should look into. These are like gas taxes. I think we should also
taxes.
We have gas taxes. We could remove the gas taxes.
Oh, okay. I was like, adding taxes?
Yeah, and then also I think we should do a temporary ban on oil exports. I'm sure the gas companies will be pissed about it, but we are a net oil exporter at this point, and it could help at least domestically.
Well, the oil prices are set by a world Illuminati that nobody really understands or elected. So it does it. So even if we ban exports in your bit, then it'll affect the prices of the world.
Sure. I mean, our allies and the Europeans can get screwed, but we because we are a net exporter at this point.
I told someone game it out. I do believe like banning exports doesn't actually help the gas prices because they're just sold at a premium to American.
As I understand, domestically, it should make them go down, but then the global market will still go up. Right. Maybe I'm misunderstanding something.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw someone
as an exporter.
I saw an autist game it out on Twitter. He was just saying like best case scenario is what Trump is doing, which is you like ease sanctions on Iran.
Something you said I wanted to follow up on that grabbed my attention. I know that you used to be part of the, maybe we'll call it more hawkish squad, and now the more so-called American First Squad. What do you make of Trump's actions in Venezuela and how that went about? I know you're also in Florida right now, and as I understand, a lot of Floridians are very supportive of that kind of stuff. What do you make of the president's stuff in action in Venezuela?
So I was pretty heavily involved in that, and I went down to Venezuela not long ago actually, and I was initially against it, mainly because I was against the narrative that we were doing this because of drugs, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. No drugs come out of Venezuela. The drugs come out of Colombia. Like, Venezuela doesn't need to launder drugs; they launder oil, like, and gold. And so I just felt like when we started blowing up boats, or I called the canoes, I'm like, I don't really understand what we're doing there. And I think there were two different, again, this is why I love Trump. He'll bring in different factions to come and debate, and then he chooses the course to take. There were factions that wanted a full regime change there, which was to go in, take Maduro, and then bring in MCM, who was the opposition party leader. I thought that would be a disaster, and especially because Venezuela is 23 million people. They're in our backyard. They already had a massive migrant crisis that led to them all like flowing here. And so if you start a civil war and just take out the leader and a regime in Venezuela and then just abandon it, then like you could see real famine, inflation, and then migration. But what Trump ended up doing is he took what the real hawkish, my South Floridians wanted, which was to topple the Maduro regime. But then by putting Delcy Rodriguez in charge, who was the vice president there, who I've met, she's very smart and stuff. And then basically he owns her now, right? She has to do everything they said. He was able to do it where there was no protesting in the streets, no loss of life, really, no so he kept the regime intact, but we got the objectives we wanted, which was to neutralize what could be a threat there. I mean, they were close to the Iranians and Russians, they were selling all their oil to like pennies on the dollar to China, and now we really get to be the ones to export all of that and secure that. And there's also a lot of other natural resources that Venezuela has. So I think it was flawlessly executed by President Trump, and I think he took several opinions and meshed that together. And I was a skeptic, but I'm very, very pleased with the outcome.
There is some chatter now about something similar being done in Cuba. I know you're a little bit reluctant to support what the president's doing in Iran, but what do you think of a potential regime change or similar to Venezuela move in Cuba? I know you have those Florida connections. Right. And maybe you could give us a tidbit about why this matters so much in Florida and the influence of that in Washington.
Yeah, so I just reread Marco Rubio's book because I was trying to get inside of his head as we were going through all these Venezuela negotiations.
He was son of Cuban.
Yeah, and his father's dying wish was for him to liberate Cuba. I think for Rubio, this is like and even Venezuela, it was weird. Like, Maduro's security guards were all Cuban. And so the Cuban intelligence, they were directly linked. So I think Rubio's thought was if you take down Venezuela and cut off Cuba, that was their only financial resource and lifeline. So for me, I'm less interested in Cuba because they have no natural resources. Yes, they have beautiful beaches. It's a cool tourism spot. But like, Venezuela was a strategic, incredibly important country of like 23 million people on a coast with a ton of oil. And more importantly, they have a lot of gas. Cuba, you can build hotels at the end of this. So I'm like, what? But for Rubio, I get that it's deeply personal. You could topple the Cuba regime in like 8 seconds. I don't like. We went in and captured Maduro, no problem. We took out half the Iranian regime, no problem. We can't find Nancy Guthrie, so that's confusing. But I'm assuming they could find and take out the Cuban leadership. But I think that is on pause right now because I think it's taking a lot of our, whether or not Secretary Rubio or high-level State Department folks, their time away from, like, Iran is now what everyone actually should be focused on or working. But I think Cuba will fall fairly easily. But it's really just South Floridians. It's about 700,000, I think. And maybe even less than that. That might be combined with, like, Venezuelans who live in South Florida. And that's what they really care about. But it's been so long that none of them gone back. A lot of their families have passed away. Like that, a lot of people grew up where their parents came over here. Like they've never been. And so I do think it is that loudness about liberating Cuba has really died out on a national stage. But, Pam Bondi is from Florida and got elected from this crowd. Susie Wiles, White House Chief of Staff, is from Florida. You've got, obviously, Rubio is from Florida. You got Michael Waltz from Florida. I mean, it is a, like, Floridian cabinet. And
obviously, Mar-a-Lago also in Florida.
Yes. And so this was a priority of Secretary Rubio's, and I think he'd end up doing a very good job in Venezuela. And I hope he takes Cuba with the minimal loss of life.
They're reporting that Emily Gregory won Florida State House District 87. Was that the one where...
That's not going to... No, Trump endorsed John Maples. That's a Democrat then.
Right.
Oof. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
So this is not a primary. This is the actual state seat. So
it's a special election. And I forget what happened where the state house member went. So that's why these special elections can be... Some people say they can be indicative of the midterms.
Let's pull this up. We got this from Frank Luntz. Mar-a-Lago. In this district, Trump carried it by plus 11 in 2024, and the seat will be going up for grabs in 2026. But VoteHub is projecting that the Democrat has won the Florida State House District 87 general election. This goes along with the other story that we had from Mediaite. Yikes, yikes, yikes. CNN poll experts stunned by Trump's massive plunge with young men, showing that Trump is down on with men 40 points on the cost of living, a 40-point swing to minus 30 from plus 10 on cost of living, and generally seeing he's minus 7 among men. I believe that the conservatives who are telling Republicans Trump is Trump is enjoying 100% support. CNN ran that story. The goal of this is to trick conservatives into losing.
Yep.
If you are actually trying to win a war, and someone came to you and said, "My liege, we've won on every front. What are your orders?" And he's like, "Oh, okay, I guess maintain position." And then what's actually happening is everyone's just getting brutalized and slaughtered. The king loses. A week later, they storm the gates, and he's like, "But I thought I was winning." We're seeing these prominent personalities all across social media being like, "Don't listen to these people. Trump is enjoying massive support among Republicans. His support for the Iran war is at 89%. Indeed." And now Palm Beach just went Democrat.
Look, this is what they did to Biden. They all propped him around saying, he's great, don't listen to him, and show fake polling. And they lived in this bubble where the rest of us living out in the country were like, yeah, he's going to lose. Like, if you go talk to your neighbor or whatever else. And this is why these polls are so dangerous. And I think it is a form of suppression. And I always say that I think polls are for strippers and firemen. They're not for predicting elections. And the problem with these is when you go ask the MAGA question, where it was on CNN, of like, that question, the way they phrased it was, if you were consider yourself a MAGA voter, if that's how you would check the box when they ask you that, which like a MAGA enthusiast, that's the wing of the party that you're in, then it was just asking, do you still, of Trump's approval? Like, I'm a MAGA voter, and do I approve of Trump? Yeah, of course I do. I would walk over glass for that man. But that doesn't mean you can't disagree with certain things. And also, I do think, especially for someone like me who works in this field, I'm very vocal when I do disagree on things, because this is what I like about Trump. He listens to a lot of people. So it's just Lindsey Graham on the golf course with him, telling him to bomb Iran all day, and the rest of us are just clapping, saying you have 100% support. Then, like, what are we all doing here? What did I work 8 years of my life for?
Reuters Ipsos poll shows Trump's approval is at 36%. Now, to be fair, that's a single poll. But I think when you're looking at all of these polls, let's pull up the RCP average and see what the current approval aggregate is for Donald Trump. It's currently sitting at 41.3. Disapproval's at 46.3. It's a minus 15 spread. Now, a lot of these polls I don't trust. I think that's fair for most people. What you want to track is the polling trend. Because if you've got, ABC or CBS, what is it? They have a minus 20, right? You're going to say, well, they're biased. Fox News is notoriously bad. They're biased. So if Fox News says Trump is minus 10, you can assume, well, they're biased. They're going to skew negative. That's baseline. A month later, that minus 15, if they haven't changed their methodology, Trump went down.
Right.
And when you see Trump going down across all metrics, Trump is down. And again, I'll stress this. The proof's in the pudding. A Democrat just won for state house, Mar-a-Lago, like Palm Beach.
Yeah,
That's
Trump
where Trump
won that by 11 or 14 points. That's why I voted this morning before I got on the flight to come here. I voted at 7:15 a.m. I went to go vote for John Maples because they were hammering.
You said before the show started that Trump endorsed the guy in Florida, and I was like, oh, he's going to win. I'm like, how does Trump lose Palm Beach? Wow. People in Palm Beach voted Democrat. That's crazy. Republicans are getting cooked. I will be honest. If they pass the SAVE Act, Republicans never lose again.
They're definitely not passing the SAVE Act.
I agree.
0% chance on that one.
So, should we start just exercising now and smoking so we can get ready for prison?
No, we got to get tough and in shape and be ready to be shipped off and fight for our great country.
I don't know if it was discussed in the show previously, like while you guys were in Austin, but do you think there's any credibility to the idea that the Republicans don't want to pass the SAVE Act because they would just be getting primaried left and right? Because like a lot of these primary votes are propped up with probably a lot of shady tactics.
Well, no, I think
how does a John Cornyn rout Ken Paxton?
That's a fair point, but I view it more likely that Republicans and Democrats share the ethos of we here in Congress are smarter than you, and we know it, and so they don't want people to vote. Oh, I'm just imagining like Thune is sitting there with Democrats and he's going, oh, God, could you imagine if people voted for us? Oh. And so to be fair, I actually don't like the popular vote for the Senate, and it should be through state appointment. But I think the actual view is we want procedural elections, not popular elections. We want to win by the numbers of the machine, not by the whims of the people. So if they pass the SAVE Act, you're going to actually have people making decisions. So long as they don't, Democrats get elected by just convincing morons to vote who don't know what they're talking about.
What I hate most about this is that it feels so just theatrical. The whole time, the president knew the SAVE Act wasn't going to pass. John Cornyn knew the SAVE Act wasn't going to pass. Chuck Schumer knew the SAVE Act wasn't going to pass. Everybody knew that you needed 60 votes to overcome the filibuster, and the Republicans don't have that. They weren't going to flip, 8 some odd Democrats to do that. John Cornyn was never going to get rid of the filibuster. All senators like the filibuster because it makes them more powerful. Right. It makes each individual senator more powerful because now if you want to reach that 60 vote threshold, you need to compromise. And that allows more people, more senators to stuff more pork in each bill to bring back home the bacon. So it feels like a dumb waste of time. It feels like some people were led on. This was used as a sort of pressure release valve for some people who thought we were going to get some form of voter ID, but it was never going anywhere. And, I felt like I was taking crazy pills for a moment because it was like, I don't know, am I missing something here? Do I not understand?
You're missing the money.
The legislative process?
Yeah, so I always, you got to trace the money on these things. First of all, a 60 vote threshold is not in the Constitution. So that was a rule making decision, I think in 1913 that then kind of sprout, but it is like nowhere in the Constitution. It says you need 51 votes. So it is ridiculous. We have 60 vote threshold came along with lobbying. Why? Because corporations did not want, think if you're a big pharma company and Elizabeth Warren or someone just goes and gets to drop a bill that says that like we need to lower insulin prices and you only need 51 votes and all of a sudden these senators actually really do have to be on record on a vote like that. When you do the 60 vote threshold and there's never, no one's ever had more than I think 56 or 57 of one party, then you can always blame the other side or wherever else and claim this bipartisanship, but really it's a massive corporate lobby trying to keep this filibuster to exist because these senators would not be able to survive in their jobs if they were actually taking votes that we, the people, wanted them to take on things such as an 80-20 issue like voter ID. So then it goes to the Democrats said, we will lift the filibuster. This was to pass H.R. 1. That was Nancy Pelosi's their election bill, basically the same thing, that now they're saying you can't federalize elections. It's like, okay, you all of you went on record saying you would nuke the filibuster to pass your H.R. 1, which was federalizing elections in the way you want. 2 senators didn't, and that was Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. They are are no longer senators because of that one vote alone. Democrats only had 52 seats, so they couldn't get it passed to nuke. You have to actually vote and get 51 to nuke the filibuster. And in fact, Sinema couldn't even go to like a wedding in Arizona. She would be booed out of it. The Democrat base was so pissed. So the Democrat Party has made their decision. When they take power, the filibuster's gone. Now we Republicans are in power, and we have all three branches of government, and we can't get Trump's agendas passed. And I think it's insane that we're holding on to this this filibuster rule that is not even in the Constitution, and this is an incredibly important vote for them to take. And at minimum, I think we should take a vote on the filibuster because they won't tell us which senators are against it.
You are certain that the Democrats will
every
nuke
single
the
one of them is on.
filibuster?
Oh my God, yeah, they all.
Because all it would take is 2 or 3,
Yeah.
depending on how big of a majority they have,
Yeah.
to not, right? Because they would need the 51 votes.
Yeah,
so.
you just need 51 votes to nuke it.
So assume that would need. I don't know if they'd be able to get all of them. I think John Fetterman said he wouldn't nuke the filibuster, and I'm sure there's at least.
Well, this would be if the Democrats take power and get enough seats and stuff. So if they were in power right now, they would. Schumer's already come out, and then in fact, when they were criticizing this talking filibuster, the talking filibuster is different from nuking the filibusters. The talking filibuster is basically you just talk exhaustively until the other party goes home or has to leave, and then they don't have a quorum, and so you can technically pass it with 51. This was Mike Lee's idea, and everyone's like, John Thune came out and said, I've never even heard of this. Well, I found a video from 2 years ago of Chuck Schumer calling and to use the talking filibuster to pass H.R. 1 when it was right after Sinema and Manchin had voted against nuking the filibuster. So Mike Lee's idea was not wrong. He was right to push for this, and it's not nuking the filibuster. Like using the talking filibuster is better, but I think that these Republicans, I don't know, they don't want to do anything. And it's not that they're against voter ID or some of these senators, but they are so obsessed with the institution itself. But now they're lying to us today and came out and said, we can pass it through reconciliation. It's like, no, you can't. The Senate parliamentary will never allow it. You couldn't even get illegals who are on Medicaid. We tried to get the Senate parliamentarian we tried to ban that in the big, beautiful bill, and the Senate parliamentarian stripped it out. And the idea that you're going to get any part of the Save America pass through reconciliation is a joke, but they just want to fundraise on Hannity and tell us that it's going to happen.
I think this is largely why young men especially are sour on Trump. And I think just dudes in general are checked out. I think the polling data shows exactly what a lot of people are suggesting right now in the space. I'm gonna go there. I know that guys don't like to hear it, but this is why you've got a lot of people Kirk posting. Erica Kirk content is massive female viewership, and guys have checked out. They're over it. I think the Iran war was a massive kick in the balls to a lot of guys, and I think I feel like we got a 1-2 punch of mass demoralization right at this exact same moment, and that is the SAVE Act failure, as well as the Iran war, told a lot of guys, you've been wasting your time with this, and so they're probably like, guys, let's go watch football. What's the point? We struggled, we screamed, and we clawed for years, and we're back at square one. It's almost like you ever play a video game, and then it's like you forget to save, and you fight a boss and lose, and then you realize you didn't save, and now you got to go start from the beginning, and you're like, oh my God, and you just throw the control down. Like, I'm not playing anymore. That's what it feels like for a lot of people. And then, so at the same time, there are, in the metrics, a lot of, behind the scenes, I'll tell you guys a secret, a lot of people are pointing out, like, we're friends with some of these people who have been, talking about Erica Kirk quite a bit, though we disagree with it. Their viewership is skewed almost entirely female the moment you start talking about Erica Kirk, and it makes a lot of money. Your RPMs triple, your female viewership skyrockets. Male viewership is massively crashing. And that's what everybody's pointing out right now.
Because they were like, look at her, the type of dress she's wearing, and the makeup.
Look at her pants.
She's using. And I'm just like, she looks like completely the same as like how I always see her. But for women, it's like big differences.
Even Joe Rogan had a viral clip where he was talking about Erica Kirk, because everybody in the industry knows this. And what I will say to everybody is that behind the scenes, these conversations, like I had like an hour-long phone call with someone in the industry that you guys all know who it is. I'm not going to say who it is, talking about how viewership is collapsing right now. Everybody's experiencing it. And the one thing I often hear is, like, obviously, for those that are watching on Timcast IRL, between Rumble and YouTube, we have, I think, 33,000 concurrent viewers. And we were hitting like 45, 50K 2 months ago. Now we're down to like 33K. It's not bad. It's better than where we were comparably to the previous election cycle. We have seen some growth, but it is seriously down. And everybody is having conversations wondering what's going on and why it's happening. And I think it's fair to say that Men have checked out.
Yeah.
That's it. Women don't care about this stuff and never did. That's why our audience has always been 80% guys and 20% female. And now you can see with the approval ratings of Trump among men dropping, they're not interested in this. But the people who are hanging on are Trump supporters. So they're saying, no, what's the problem? They stand with Trump. Then, of course, you've got the libertarians. They were never going anywhere. They were always going to be in politics complaining about something, right? But the regular people that got on board when politics became pop culture, I think, are checking out.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you an example. For my morning show, viewership's pretty dang good. Like, it's fairly stable. But I do, I did a video about the woman getting in a car accident. It's general interest. And then the videos that do the best are UFOs, aliens, space weather, like totally non-political stuff. I think dudes have checked out of politics right now, and it's going to be apocalyptic in November for the Republicans. I think it's going to be worse than people realize. If this trend continues, we're not looking at Democrats just taking the House. We're looking at a supermajority. We're looking at like a 30-seat swing or something absolutely insane with these numbers.
Yeah, you're kind of just seeing, it retracts back to the politicos, where it's just the people that are interested in politics are the ones tuning into political content. I mean, to Tim's point, I'll do uploads occasionally on his channel, and by far my best performing video was one with Homath.
Yeah, so you talk about women being hoes, and it's like guys are like, tell me about it.
And I put out these different, and it's fine, it's whatever, but I put out these videos and I bring on like these different experts or whatever on like politically focused content. They get like 10,000 views. When I have like congressmen on it, like it's like 10,000 views. But then you start talking about like stuff that men are really at the top of their mind, dating. That's why we'll get into it later, I suppose, is the discourse right now against.
Yeah, we'll jump on that second. Thing. But this is the point, is that guys got heavily involved in politics. Politics became pop culture. And I think now, I'll tell you my honest feelings was like with the Iran war kicking off, I was like, so Trump was wrong about the 12-day war. We did not disable their capabilities. Now we're going back into war, and it feels like a 1-2 punch of demoralization. You've got the SAVE Act failing, despite it being extremely popular, and I think people are completely demoralized. Like, oh, it was fake the whole time. Trump's giving us war. We didn't want that. And I know the Trump supporters are saying they're for it, but it's fascinating to see Trump supporters all of a sudden being like, Elaad's right about everything. Bro, come on, like 3 months ago, they were like, we don't like Elaad, he's wrong about everything. Mm-hmm. Now they're all agreeing with him. Hey, I got no problem if you're going to stand behind Trump the whole time. I think Trump still is the best president of my lifetime. I think we've had a bunch of miserable presidents and way better. But my point is, for young men, they're like, oh, Trump's doing the exact same thing. What was the point? Oh, the SAVE Act isn't getting passed. What was the point? Why were we spending time doing this? Bro, I'm going to go order a pizza and go kick back and fish or something.
I think we're also coming off of a high of like the pre-Trump era, or like the early Trump era, where all of the left was freaking out about everything that the president would do. Yeah. There was a ton of these women marches and Antifa, and then there was the George Floyd riots, and like media was really hitting a high then, and the left was going crazy, and there was transgenders everywhere. And everybody was non-binary or gay, or there was every new what form of gay, of LGBTQIA,
some binary,
everything.
It's crazy.
And a lot of that stuff seemed to be dwindling down.
Yeah,
it was a lot. There was a lot more much more clickbaity stuff. I remember 5 or 6 years ago there were like these transgender protests every day, Antifa everywhere, constantly railing against the president. Well, and it was crazy. And then they would even riot against the president, especially in the first term. And things were so crazy. And now things are just chill.
They're losing. Well, here's the other thing. Maybe, not to be so pessimistic. Maybe we won. I mean,
I don't know.
Let me finish the point. The progressives in Illinois all lost. Every single progressive was crushed, and that whole woke era is dead. And so guys are not being as motivated. I think maybe, and they've canceled Starfleet Academy. I think maybe they're getting the message that we should just let guys play video games.
Well, I think the left just like realized how disastrous the resist lib like era, how bad optics that was. Because you think about all the characters at the time, like to Elaad's point, they're freaking out all the time. Trump too. They're actually things are happening that they were saying, because like nothing happened in the first term, but the things that they were saying were happening in the first term are actually happening now. Like there's ICE goon squads and everything, and they're like not really freaking out. I mean, Mueller just died. Do you remember like the first term? Like Mueller was like this superstar, and they were glazing him like crazy, and they had like effigies and these candles for him and everything. And then he died, and they just kind of like quietly were like, Okay, because they're almost embarrassed by how crazy that period
I remember
was.
Trump supporters being assaulted in the streets regularly. If you wore a MAGA hat, you were persona non grata. You were liable to be assaulted, and people would justify it on the internet. They would say, like, yeah, we're just punching a Nazi. And if you're wearing a MAGA hat, then you're a Nazi.
Dude,
the culture has shifted completely away from
They burned cars over like Ben Shapiro. Like it was crazy.
They used to riot over Ben Shapiro.
I know.
They now
not
sell
very-
MAGA hats like in the airport. If you like arrive at
MAGA's mainstream.
Dulles,
Yeah. It
there's
used
like
to
little
be-
kiosks.
Yeah.
I've been to, I think, like 137 Trump rallies. The OG ones in the beginning, in like 2016 primary days, there used to be just people busting, like fist fights, and Trump would get into it and like start screaming, be like, get him. And like, like if you went to a Trump rally, it was like dangerous. Like you were like going to something, nobody knew what was going to happen. There was like brawls breaking out. Trump's like throwing, there's like 2 cops in it.
Like
And
an
now,
SEC tailgate. It was
yeah,
crazy.
it was just absolute like madness,
Everyone's
which is
drunk.
what I like love. I'm like, this is so different from like, then I'm like standing at a Jeb Bush rally. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
But that, to me, that part is like kind of, one, it's just everything is so formal now when you're President Joe is long, and he's also had multiple assassination trips. But I just find it, in January, the White House was saying, all right, we're going to send the president out, and we're going to focus on a like affordability tour. And now we're in March, and I'm like, okay, but, well, I think I saw him go to Memphis and like one other place, and we've invaded Iran, but like, where can we go back to the
I think he gave
affordability
up on the
tour?
midterms.
Can we-
I think he gave up on the midterms. He said, I mean, we're already, I think, going to not be, the Republicans are losing the majority. I believe there's a Republican who's going to die in the next couple, who has a terminal illness. In the House.
Neil Dunn.
And then depending on how you count Thomas Massey, there's about to be a true 50-50 split. The party in power almost always loses in the midterm. So the president might just be thinking, F it, if I'm already going to lose, I'm just going to do whatever I want. And then again, second term presidents have a history of being more unrestrained, especially when it comes to the...
And he's got like Mark Levin in his ear, who's like, there's like a literal like Nazi like group in Iran, and if you take them out, you can like be in the history books forever. And Trump's gonna like respond to that. Yeah. And also, to be fair to like the people that are slamming Trump for like being friendly to Mark Levin, keep in mind that these guys are like constantly supporting the president and encouraging him and like putting out these like really pleasant posts about Donald Trump. And then all the guys that they're like mad that Trump won't listen to are like constantly like ankle biting and like being nasty to him. It's like, well, why would Trump listen to these guys who are like undercutting him, even if they're like more based? Trump's going to respond to the guys that are like glazing him all the time. That's just human nature.
Look, I also think there's...
And he's 80.
There's something to be said about people in power and understanding how to wield power instead of, again, being like ankle biters. So, like, again, people love to trash Lindsey Graham. There's a reason why he's a, 3-4-time senator in South Carolina and not going anywhere. Please dare to primary Lindsey Graham and see how far that gets you. He's extremely popular in his state. He's not going anywhere. He has a power base. He has constituents, and this allows him to be effective and effectively pitch the president.
He's a catty gay guy. Good luck taking that
It's
guy
going to be interesting if the progressive Democrats lose and the Republicans lose and we get corporate Dems taking over. I wonder how that's going to change the culture in this country because, I mean, the polls are not good for Trump, but the corporate Dems have not been in control of their party for some time. The progressives have been. That's why we were saying they're protesting in the street every day. What is that going to look like, right?
Abby Spanberger everywhere.
Guns
the
banned.
CIA running the country.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what it looks like. But I'm not convinced that. I think maybe they're just being careful and they're actually allowing primaries, which is nice. You forget they just anointed people. They didn't allow any conversations in the Democratic Party. They had no primaries ever. They're actually allowing those to happen. But like, I do think like Graham Plantner ends up winning in Maine, and some of these populist Democrats will win. In Illinois, I mean, you did have AIPAC did not have a good night that night, so you had some progressives win as well. And AIPAC also, the amount of money they spent compared to even some of those races being quite tight.
Was it a Nazi tattoo?
We're gonna jump to what was that?
Was it a Nazi tattoo, or am I being a sensitive Jew?
For who?
Plantner.
From Plantner,
Are you joking?
It was like
it was a Totenkopf.
Well, I just want to make sure I'm not being a sensitive Jew about it.
No. It was literally the Totenkopf, and he said it was, and he said, "Oops, I didn't know what it was." He didn't say it wasn't a Nazi tattoo. He says, "Yes, it is, but it was an accident."
Did he say that? I feel like
Yes.
he said.
Yes, he did.
Know what
Yes.
this
He
was
was
drunk with his like
military.
military
He didn't
friends and
admit.
got it.
Did he admit that it was a? I
Yes.
think he said he
Yeah.
didn't know what it was.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, he was like, in the
was also
military,
like-
we get Nazi tattoos. It's what we do, you know?
Hey,
We
don't
got
insult
Burger
our
King, we get a
patriotic,
Nazi
uh,
tattoo.
But listen,
accidentally in a lot of chat rooms.
Listen. If you hate the Jews, which political party do you choose?
You tell me. I guess the Democrats.
What do you mean you guess the Democrats?
I think the whole debates in 2028 are going to be about this and about Israel and support, and both parties are going to have it. And so I think, you know, if you have Rubio run or even JD Vance, I think you're going to have an MTG and a Tucker and a Thomas Massey and people all on the stage in these primaries, and this is going to become a defining question. I agree. I think on the left too, you saw even like the Pennsylvania governor distanced himself from AIPAC. Like, it is so bad that they cannot, like,
Israel's support in this country is over. You know, Elaad, I hate to break it to you. Boomers love Israel. Bill Maher said, if I'm with Trump on this issue, boomers love Israel, but boomers are on the way out. I'm not trying to be a dick, but it's true. And among the younger generations, you've got either anti-interventionist or outright anti-Israel, and on both sides, the fringes, anti-Semites. This is just a fact at this point. When we're looking at the cancellation of these TV shows, why? It's because their viewership is all 70 years plus. These people will not be voting in any substantive fashion in 2032. Boomers are out.
Especially if we eliminate mail-in voting.
we're looking at boomers now that are split between they're 70 to 80 years old. So in the next 6 years, we're expected to see what's called the mortality shelf. This is where 2/3 of boomers are going to all die because they're all hitting life expectancy. On average, it goes down. That means they will be a minimal voting bloc. They'll be important, but they'll be much, much smaller than Gen X, Millennial, and Gen Z, which each are going to be around. I think Gen X is like 70, then Millennials and Gen Z are 80. Gen Alpha is microscopic, so they're not going to play a role. Millennials are going to dominate politics in this country as the largest voting bloc. Indeed, with boomers out, Israel's got no support. Cable TV's done. It's cooked. And so I wonder if, and this has been some of the speculation, the reason why we went to war with Iran now is that Israel knows if the war doesn't happen now, the U.S. will not be involved 6 years from now.
I'm praying for our boomers. They're our country's biggest patriots.
Actually, the boomers are split. They half voted against, half for. 70 plus was the only age decade that opposed Trump. Every other age bracket supported Trump. So the younger boomers are more pro-Trump. The older boomers are anti-Trump. And it's going to be interesting how this plays out now that Trump is moving on. But I do believe that when you get to that stage in 2028, no one is going to be staunchly pro-Israel. No, hold on. I'm not saying there won't be support for Israel. I'm saying you're not going to see that weird, cringe New York mayor stuff where they're like, which country would you go to? And every mayor is like, I'd go to Israel. And then Zoran's like, I'd just stay here and help New Yorkers. Like, it's weird that everybody's saying that for Israel. You look at young people, and this is what I said when I went to that meeting with Netanyahu. I was like, you guys got 10 years if you're lucky. That's it. And then the U.S. is cutting off, and Israel's on their own.
Well, I mean, even Israel themselves, like Benjamin Netanyahu, was like, we should probably just try to decouple like now because it's. And he didn't say it, but I think in his head he's like, it's probably inevitable that the U.S. will try to decouple. There'll certainly be a push from the Democrats.
Let's jump to this story. We've got this tweet, massively viral tweet. Trevor Sheets. He's got 32 million views because he said, my wife was formerly promiscuous. I was a virgin. She was then radically born again, committed to church, evangelized constantly, Puritan books in her bedroom, prayer journals, grief over past sexual sin. We got to know each other well for over a year, dated for 4 months, engaged for 2.5, and didn't sin sexually with one another. Our first kiss with each other was at the altar on our wedding day. Reaction, pic attached. We've been married for over 5 years now, and she's been the most wonderful and godly wife, mother to our 3 children, and homemaker. You could imagine. You're saying she's been the most wonderful? That's what you're saying. She's more pure than most virgins, as biblical purity has less to do with past sins and more to do with one's current posture. I'm going to speed through this because you get the point. He says a woman or man's past sexual sin matters, but what matters far more when it comes to deciding who to marry is if the person is truly born again. If their repentance is real, if they truly have a heart for Christ, if they truly follow Jesus and obey his commands. And then he quotes the Bible. He's got this beautiful picture of his marriage. And of course, it is blowing the F up with 12,000 replies, 7,000 retweets, and 31.5 million views. And oh boy, here we go. Tate, what's wrong with this?
There's a lot wrong with this. I mean, like, let me just clear this because again, people just don't understand. Like, I think people are being intentionally obtuse. We're not really critiquing the concept of like redemption. Like, yes, and Christianity, I'm speaking as a Christian. When you do like admit to your sins, right? Like, you are a new creation in Christ. There's no doubt about that. Like, no one is debating that. what we're having contention with is two things. One is the bizarre public like declaration where you just air your dirty laundry on the internet and then somehow package it as if it's like a testimony and that it's somehow helping somebody. It's really not, and it's actually just having a demoralization.
I actually think
that's like the primary issue.
But I think it's also exacerbating the problem by telling women you can be promiscuous and slutty, but don't worry. Just once you're done, just claim that you're born again and you're good.
Because that's like the primary issue I would say with the entire thing is it's really just presenting to women the concept that it's more of a bailout than an actual like. There's not proper indication to these women that like it's actually a really bad thing to be promiscuous. It's just saying like it happened. Oh well, it's like it was like a phase of her life. It's like some people are emo, some people sleep around.
There's a Simpsons meme for this. We call it Bart Simpsoning. He says a life of sin followed by the deathbed repentance.
Yeah, well that's effectively what he's telling. And again, it's like this isn't a novel testimony. This is probably like half of marriages where like the woman or the man had like a really promiscuous background because unfortunately the world that we live in today is like the concept of chaste, like the concept of saving yourself for marriage is basically laughed at. So it's like it's really rare this actually happens. So again, I don't know why he's packaging this like this is some unique testimony that we're desperately needing. It's like, no, young women understand this. And for young men and young women that are pursuing like a Christ-like marriage, this is just unbelievably demoralizing and frustrating to see because it's like, yes, we know young women who are women that like sleep around, get bailed out all the time. We know that. And then in addition to that, it was just
no repercussions.
No repercussions. And then it was insulting where he says she's more pure than a lot of virgins. Or I think he might have said most virgins. Yep. That's just absurd on the face because it's like, one, that has a definition, what like pure means. And two, it's like, screw you. Like there's a lot of young women specifically that are waiting, that are trying to be obedient. And like this woman's stolen valor because like what this guy married her, now she's more pure. It's like, no, that's ridiculous.
Here's how Tristan Tate responded. He says, you know when you've never driven a car before and then you scrape money together for an old shitty vehicle, but you think it's pretty good because you've never driven another car? I remember that feeling. Mine was a VW Golf and the engine didn't even fire from one of the cylinders. The salesman told me it had been reworked and was good as new. I didn't know it wasn't. I had no point of reference. Now, this isn't about the physical driving sensation. That was enjoyable enough despite the wear and tear, but the reliability and soul of the vehicle was expended. It went through numerous breakdowns. One day you will think back on this analogy. Nonetheless, I wish you both well.
Yeah.
Yikes. And that is ice cold.
What Tristan's getting at, and like, I'm trying to approach this from like a Christian standpoint, but what he is hitting on is valid, and this is a problem, is this like scarcity mindset. So it's specifically with young men, because the dating market is so bad for young men right now, that as soon as they find a woman that will like show them love and affection, especially if like this guy, I think he's a little older, he's like 30 when he got married, they're just going to jump in with both feet, because the reality is for a lot of young men right now, especially Christian young men, there is this sense that like there's really not that many eligible spouses, and they have a really difficult time finding eligible spouses. So if they finally find someone that at least ticks a few boxes, they just go all in and like worship this woman. It's the scarcity mindset, and it's a big problem with the evangelical community.
If you're a young guy right now and you're seeing this, like I agree with what you're saying. It's basically like this guy is a weak man. I'm not trying to be a dick. And this is the narrative that's been pushed on the internet for some time by like the red pill or like men's rights guys. Maybe not men's rights guys is that way to describe it, but like dating advice that women are going to go for the chads, the alpha chads, and they're going to get used and abused by them because these guys have no reason to settle down because everybody wants them. Then once they're older and hit the quote unquote wall, they'll look for a weak man who says, I'll give you anything you want.
Yeah.
So the young guys are sitting there saying, I just want to have a family. I want to have a job. But the women are saying, I have no reason to do this because the hottest guys want me. And then as soon as I turn 30, I'll come back. I'll come crawling back to you, and you'll give it up.
Well, and that's like the thing. Like, there's this thing where like a lot of men are like, "Wow, she's like ran through or whatever. She's really going to regret that one day, or she's waiting to get married. Like, she's really going to regret that when she's older and doesn't have kids." It's like there is no justice. Actually, these women do end up happily ever after. They will find a guy that again is just going to bail her out. That's like looking for a wife, and he's gotten old enough where he's like, "I'll just marry basically anyone that will show me affection." There is no justice. Like these women will be fine. They will have kids. They will have a husband, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's what infuriates young men so much.
Look, I'll take the contrarian take here. If these are two happy consenting adults, let him go at it, Like,
no one ever said not to.
That's like the argument people use for
No,
gay marriage.
no one ever said not to. The point
I'm just
is
saying, like,
social degradation.
Sure. I also think there's something to be said about how promiscuous. I don't know if I'm getting into the nitty gritty here, but people have different definitions of this. But like, all things considered, if they're happy about it, like
I'm not saying they should get like divorced. I'm just saying like let's not prescribe this as like a model to follow, and that's what this guy is trying to do by airing out his wife's dirty laundry. I mean, she's spoken about this testimony publicly, but it's like, dude, stop. The way he's portraying this, again, it's not, I believe her. I believe her at face value that she truly is redeemed and she's not going to fall in that lifestyle. Some guys are trying to like, dig into her lifestyle. I don't really care about that. What I'm saying is stop presenting this like it's a model, because it's not. And the reality is the way that marriage works in 2026, I'm saying this as a Christian, picking your spouse is not something you can screw up. You got to get that right. And so it's like you need to interpret whatever data you can to determine you're making the correct calculation. For the same reason why you wouldn't have a born-again pedophile like babysit your children. Because it's like, that's great. You've redeemed your life. And I do believe you. I do believe you're redeemed. But past sin, there's consequences to that. You're not going to be seen the same. It's just unfortunate. But it's like you cannot remove consequences. It's unfortunate.
As the only female here, do you have a thought?
I read it as a super douchey post, and I'm also confused when he says my wife was promiscuous. Part of me is like, what does that mean? She like made out with other people? Does it detail like do we even know what this woman did? Like it could have been that.
I immediately assume she slept with like a bunch of people.
That's what
but
she
also,
said,
but
yeah.
the type of guy that would write this like would think it's promiscuous to make out with someone. So
Right,
that's why I'm like, what do we even
That's
know
true.
if this woman slept with anyone? Like,
Yeah, that's like these evangelical guys. Like she had like
Correct,
two
like-
boyfriends.
Wait, let's assume.
But she
Okay,
she came out later and she was like, I couldn't keep track of how many men I was with. That's what she said verbatim. I lost count of how many men I was
I didn't know you had the
She said
inside
that?
scoop here.
Oh yeah, I got the tea. Yeah. Well, because it's all over the timeline. I didn't want to learn. I'm learning everything about this couple. I'm learning is against my will.
Oh, so you
I don't
have
think
more
it's
information
uncommon.
than we do.
For women to sleep with many men, or I don't know,
Many
at least
men,
a
what are you, 50
handful.
Cent?
Well-
in our generation.
yeah, I do think people are sleeping with more partners because they're getting married later, right? Like, so that is another problem. Everyone used to get married at like 18 to 23, and so like your number would be much lower. But now when everyone's getting married at 36, so you just inherently have more partners. But yeah, I think I would rather set myself on fire than go to a dinner party with these two people. And I, past that, don't really have too many hot takes on it.
No, that's completely. Yeah, it's just like there's a reason why, because this is like it just epitomized like what a lot of young men are feeling, but specifically young men that are Christian, young men that are like specifically in the evangelical.
Are young
tradition.
Christian men seeking a virgin woman?
Well, the problem isn't that we're like that every man, it's going to be ideal for them. Like, let's not pretend like men are actively seeking out
I'm so
women with
old,
like a high
it
body
isn't
count.
even a consideration.
It's 100%. Well, it's 100% a consideration for a lot of men who are like serious about marriage, who want to make sure they get it right. And then like the message from like evangelical leaders, I'm seeing it all over the timeline, is like, not only is it like you're wrong for thinking that, it's like they're basically saying you don't have the right to like desire for
in
a
Christianity,
spouse.
nobody's beyond redemption.
And I agree, but it's like, again, it's
I
just the way
understand.
things work with how broken the dating scene is. It's like men have to be a little caught, and women too. For the record, women should also have the right to want their spouse to like be at least on the same footing as them, the same level of experience, because this doesn't apply to sexuality. Like it applies to multiple realms, education, like you could. It's fair to say you want your spouse like at the same level as you, but for some reason, for some reason, evangelical leaders are dead set on removing all the consequences of like sexual degradation, sexual degeneracy. I don't know why, but they're just so intent on
Trying
it.
to get these promiscuous women wed.
What I think it is, well, I think it's that, but I think like evangelicalism in and of itself has a serious undercurrent of feminism, and this is why you see these churches.
Yeah, that's true.
These churches have like basically TED Talks for sermons, and the worship is like gay. It's like literally, it's like just this really whimsical music. Jesus is my boyfriend style music. The great Vodi Bakum coined that, and it's like it's just pathetic. It really is. The evangelicalism in 2026 is just anti-male fundamentally, and it's this. And then you're seeing it where all these pastors are coming out and they're like, the real problem here is actually the men, and you're like, what? Like, where did this come from?
We need to have an evangelical on to defend their honor.
I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church. I'm a Presbyterian. Like, by all accounts, every trad cath would call me like a kitschy evangelical. I know this is my people. I know a million people like Trevor Sheets. I know these people like the back of my hand.
Maybe it's testosterone's going down. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
You know what I do think a big component of testosterone going down has to do with people's skin is nicer as well. You know why? Nobody goes outside anymore. So there's a really funny I guess, trope where it's like, you ever notice that in the 90s, people who were like 30 looked like they were 50? You ever notice that? Like on Seinfeld, you're like, those people were 29, 30 years old. Like I think Elaine was supposed to be like 28 or something. And they look like they're in their mid to late 30s relative to today. It's because we don't go outside as much. This is true. So people went outside to walk places more often. So obesity went up. And a lot of people are like, something happened. There's this meme where they're like, something happened at the end of the 90s where obesity skyrocketed. They changed our food. No, the internet. People stopped going outside. They started doing more work at computers. You used to have to walk to the store for things. Now you don't. Now someone else does it for you. There was this, I can't remember who told the story. You guys maybe look it up. I think the chat will know. Where a guy's like, I intentionally walk to the store to get envelopes or whatever because it's not going to the store that matters. It's what happens on the way where I see a dog and I pet it and I wave to my neighbors. Not anymore. And so I think one of the reasons why testosterone has been dropping is not necessarily because of microplastics in our balls or whatever. It's because guys don't use their muscles. They're not walking. They're not lifting. They're not doing manual labor. Young men used to have to go and lift rocks and do work as kids. Like women worked at the soda shop and they'd bring you your burger on roller skates and guys would move boxes and lift and break rocks. And then you had like that video of the presidential fitness program where the guys are swinging on the monkey bars and they're doing pull-ups. That work boosted testosterone. It's not just about all the food. Now guys are eating, takeout pad thai, which is heavily starchy with only a little bit of protein. They're sitting around watching movies. Their muscles are thin and flabby. They don't build testosterone. And then they go, whatever you say, dear.
Yeah, it was the Bronze Age pervert tweet where it was like ancient men conquered cities, put them to the sword. Meanwhile, you go to a wine bar with your girlfriend and enjoy tasteful banter. You are gay. It's like so true.
Is that why we're taking a trip to Tehran?
I think that's why we got to go to Tehran.
That's why I said I love the masculinity. Maybe the real problem is just all these frail little sissy boys. We just need war for no other reason, just war.
Like hurt a little.
We just need brutal men who just do brutal things.
Well, there's some truth also to the fact that like the world wars removed like the top percentile of test like men out of the gene pool forever.
Wow.
Yeah, because all the weak guys stayed behind.
Yeah, all the weak guys stayed behind, and also like the most like strong men.
But that's been true forever. That's been true forever.
Yeah, but World War II.
That's why there's so many Smiths.
Yes, but like the world wars were like a really high volume of like herd thinning, so to speak. I mean, Russia every 20 to 30 years has a massive birth rate drop purely because there's so many men missing from that generation. They call it echoes of the wars, and they're actually going through one right now.
Isn't it crazy? Ukraine war's still going on. Like, what is it?
Everyone
5
just
years?
forgot about
Yeah, who cares?
What?
It's like
Over
that
it.
war.
Remember that war
All
that's
those
still happening?
FPV drones that still like I still watch those videos
know.
all the time. Nobody cares.
they have like 25,000 deaths a month right now. This war. This is like a serious war. So
nobody-
on a
it's
minimum,
just a
and no
drill.
one talks about it. I'm like,
Nobody
we
cares.
lost 7 people, and then it's like war so far abroad.
country's
I'm losing
freaking
my mind.
out.
They're literally like, it's wild. This topic that did remind me, and maybe it's the picture, but I used to work for Turning Point, and I know Charlie from like original and helped with fundraising for him. And Charlie and I were flying to New York, and he was that night having his first date with Erica, and he was so nervous. But earlier that day, I won't say who, but I was with Charlie and some guys. They were all making fun of him, saying, "Charlie, like you're 26 years old and a virgin now. Like you need to figure this out." I think it was 26 or 27. Like and.
So they went to a CIA recruiting farm where they found Erica, and he picked her.
Yeah, no. So they go to New York City. He was asking me about like restaurants, and then I don't remember what he picked someplace. And then the next day we were flying somewhere in the Midwest, and so he gets on the plane and immediately I'm like, "How did it go?" And he just looks at me and was like, "I'm gonna marry her." And then I got to like watch him court her, just how purposeful he was. It was actually really neat to see. I'd not seen a guy just like take a girl out on a date in so long and then do that and then just actually like be so interested in court.
Let's actually hit this one more story. I know we're pushing it a little late, but let's grab this one from Mediaite. Betrayal. The Charlie Kirk Show utterly disgusted after Joe Kent says he'd testify at alleged assassin's trial. Now, Joe Kent has made the claim that he was not allowed to investigate any foreign nexus which may have been involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which, of course, presents a little bit of doubt. I'm not saying it's, beyond a reasonable doubt, but the outrage here is that Joe Kent is insinuating there may have been something else involved and they were blocked, which will allow the defense for the alleged Charlie Kirk assassin to say this was not a proper investigation. And with this statement already in the public, how can the FBI say that their investigation was thorough and complete and correct if you have the testimony from a counterterrorism director saying they weren't not allowed to investigate? That's going to create reasonable doubt for the jury. Right. They're going to get this guy found not guilty because at least one or not to mention the amount of jurors that are probably watching a lot of these podcasts and these shows. So this is interesting, but I will just say, I haven't seen the evidence. We've only seen what's in the public. I think the trial should be public. We should be able to see what the evidence is. And I think that the official narrative on Tyler Robinson is not correct, but I think Tyler Robinson is likely the person who did it. We'll see what the evidence bears out. I think Tyler Robinson did not act alone, and there's evidence that other people had foreknowledge of what was going to happen, and that is being effectively, I don't know if covered up is the right word, but you've got people claiming Israel did it, which seems ridiculous because Charlie held a seminar to convince Gen Z to support Israel. Like even Nick Fuentes is like, that's crazy. Like if Ben Shapiro died, people are going to be like, Israel did it. That's insane. That being said, they are really downplaying all of the evidence suggesting other people were either assisting or involved with this assassination, such as the vehicles outside of Robinson's house, the social media posts from individuals saying something is going to happen. They had foreknowledge something was going to happen. The question is, how did they know?
Well, he's the director of counterterrorism, which, by the way, this is an organization that was founded post 9/11 because there are many people say that if the CIA, FBI had actually been coordinating on the intelligence that they had, we could have prevented that attack. So that is what his role is, to be at the intersection. He has access to every single piece of sensitive data that comes through our country from both the FBI and CIA. So the idea that Joe Kent, he's saying that they tried to obstruct him. Nobody obstructed you, Joe. You were in that job. You could have investigated anything. You were the director of counterintelligence, and you were counterterrorism. You were Senate confirmed. No one is able to go into the computer system and block Joe Kent from having access to that data. So one, I think he's a liar, and I think that this is pretty outrageous as to what he did. And by the way, you were in that role for a year. So what the hell did you do about anything other than run away and then go debate Mark Levin, where I learned absolutely nothing and what was the worst 47 minutes of my life?
Yeah, and if he's fixated on all this indicates why there was so much inaction on the Antifa cells following the Charlie Kirk assassination. If he didn't even think it was them that conducted the attack.
And if Andrew Covell sends you a private text message chain that they want to keep private, and your job is to go investigate that. You have access to literally every single piece of intelligence the United States government has access to. And instead you give it to Candace to say on her podcast.
So
what are you doing?
He denied leaking it, but Colvett, and I can corroborate this, said that Colvett said that he gave that text where Charlie said he was being forced to leave the pro-Jewish cause. He gave that to Joe Kent. And then sure enough, the next thing he knows, it leaks to Candace Owens. Joe Kent's denying it, but then it would be Joe Kent gave it to somebody. He shared with somebody after he said it needs to be made public. What I can say is that I had spoken with guys at TPUSA, including Colvett, and what they're saying now is true. That this is my understanding. Before any of this became public, when the text came out, I was told this exact story. And so the fact that Joe Kent is now, in the spotlight and Colvett is saying he's the guy that was given it and it got leaked. Even before this was public, I knew. So I don't say anything because if someone tells me to keep things private, I'll be like, okay. Because they're like, we don't know who leaked it. But I'm like, yep, I don't know. Well, I will say this. It would seem, at least as far as my understanding of these conversations, Joe Kent did leak these texts.
100%.
Now, whether he leaked it to Candace Owens, I don't know. But somebody was given it and it got to Candace. Now, the problem with the selective release of a text message like that and what Candace is doing with these texts is that she can just put out whatever message she wants to frame the picture any way she wants, and Charlie can't speak up to defend himself or to correct the context. And so I just, you see it endlessly where people are like, this proves Charlie was anti-Israel. And it's like, yes, but at the same time, like around the same time, he did a seminar with Gen Z to convince them to support Israel. So like that's context too. And it sounds like to me from these texts that he was basically venting, not that he was saying he was changing his stance, but he was like, man, it very much reminds me of the, oh, won't someone rid me of this meddlesome priest? Yeah. Not a direct statement of, I want him dead, but I'm just so frustrated with these people. And then it's taken to be construed as that he was anti-Israel.
No, he was under a lot of pressure from his donors. I was a fundraiser for Charlie, and the pro-Israel donors are very intense. They care about one thing, and that is Israel. I always joke that there are pro-Israel donors, pro-business donors, and then the actual ideological ones. Those are the three categories. The pro-Israel, they want you to unequivocally to support Israel, which is fine. And Charlie had a massive amount of donors, right? He was the best fundraiser in the country. People loved him, but those pro-Israel donors would give him so much pressure on his speaking lineups and all this stuff, and it was weighing on him. But also, he would tell people in private that he thought that the trans community was going to kill him. And ultimately, I think that's what happened here. I think the trans community did kill him. I think there's been a lot of radical trans shootings, and I think this guy was radicalized by the trans community. He shot Charlie Kirk.
The people who threaten to kill me are not Israel. It's the craziest thing. It's just literal wackaloons. The people who have swatted us, and we believe we know what it is, they are leftists. There has never been an instance where, like, it makes no sense that Charlie Kirk would be killed by Israel. Maybe some other foreign country, I suppose, but it is wild what has become of the political space in this country. And I'm going to say this too. I think another reason why young men may be dipping out of politics, you do have a break from Trump. And this could be a combination of factors from demoralization. Also, many of these people are probably fans of Tucker. Tucker is probably driving a shift as well. But I also wonder if there's a lot of people that have just, they've checked out because of the psychosis of politics. Because you've got, you go on X and what happens? I love this. You're either a Nazi or a Jew. Like, that's the polar extremes at this point. And then somehow I'm both simultaneously. It's amazing. So I got to tell you, it's demoralizing, and it makes it like, why would I want to be involved with any of this insanity? Why would I want to be party to the grifter class who are just saying whatever they have to say because they're scared their views are going down? And that's what's happening. And you know, I'll say this to everybody watching. I told this story before. There's a fitness influencer. He made videos about fitness. After October 7th, he made a video about October 7th. And he was like, you know, I don't really talk about this stuff, but the things that we're seeing are really horrifying, and everyone's talking about it. And the comments were asking me my thoughts, so I decided to make a video. And, you know, it's like everybody gets in this moment, this cultural moment. Well, all of a sudden, he goes from getting like 30,000 views on fitness videos to 150,000 views. And he's like, wow. Then he gets more comments being like, have you heard what's going on? Can you update us? Can you tell us what you think? And so then he's like, well, last video I did, it got 6 figures, right? There's another video on Israel. All the comments are anti-Israel critical, saying, I don't know, man, this seems fishy. Did you see this story? Did you see that story? Slowly over time, with more and more comments and more money, his channel is now nothing but anti-Israel content. He is nothing but an anti-Israel influencer because his RPMs went up, his viewership went up, and he says, I've become successful. It's when you look at Mr. Beast, look at his early YouTube videos, playing Minecraft, giving people money, and then that's where he found his success. Now he's doing game shows. You know, he's just become a generic personality. He just chased after whatever built him up. Dylan Mulvaney, a great example. Dylan Mulvaney's original TikTok videos were gay safari. Then Dylan made a I'm non-binary video, 4 million views. Gay safari, no one's watching. Then I think I'm trans, 4 million views. Then I'm going to do a trans thing every single day and millions and millions and millions and millions of views. People are driven in this direction because they're chasing after what gets them money. And what I will tell you right now is behind the scenes, the business, the guys selling ads, the people know this. I don't know if this next thing is true, but I'm going to say it anyway. A lot of people have pointed out, I was talking to a guy who does ad sales, and he says, you'll notice the Hodge twins on Facebook and the Hodge twins on Twitter have inverted political opinions.
Oh, interesting.
And what I was told, it's because the marketing company that does the posting does not care about politics. They care about engagement. So this is a guy sitting in a room who has no idea what Trump is doing or not. All he knows is that when he says Trump here, he gets 4x impressions. When he says no Trump here, they get 4x impressions. So they just set the machine. It keeps going. People have been saying this all over X every time the Hodge twins post. They're like, on X, they're pro-Tucker, they're anti-Israel. On Facebook, they're pro-Trump. Why? Facebook is largely boomers who like Trump. X has something else going on, whatever that may be, different audience. So all of a sudden, these people, they start shifting what they normally talk about. They're talking about geopolitics, talking about taxes, to Erica Kirk's leather pants. 100, 400,000 views, 100,000, 200, 300, 400. I'm like, why is this guy who used to talk about politics that I actually liked watching and cared about now just complaining that you wore the wrong pants?
Right.
Because they get a boost in female viewership. They make a lot more money. Their RPMs jump and they're chasing after it. So by all means, we can have a show here where we talk about whether Trump is doing good or Trump is doing bad and be honest about our thoughts on it. But that's not what makes the most money. And then something else happens. YouTube is going to algorithmically promote whatever generates the most viewership and ad rates. And for some reason, right now, RPMs on Erica Kirk content have passed finance. Finance is the number one RPM. It's like $20. And now Erica Kirk posts are rivaling or beating finance. I was talking to these people who are running this behind the scenes, and they're like, oh yeah, Erica Kirk content, $20, $25. And I'm like, what? News media is $6, $7. That means for every 1,000 views you get, you'll get $6, $7. Not if you're talking about Erica Kirk, you'll get 25. That means not only do you get more views, you get more money. And the reason you get more views is because YouTube is like, if the RPMs are higher, promote these videos more because we'll make more money off ad sales. So who the is advertising intentionally on Google Ads targeting Erica Kirk content? That's the weirdest thing to me. But it's happening. It is. She is completely irrelevant on the world stage. And I'm not trying to be a dick, but she is. Right. Okay? She's running a student organization for politics. She's not telling Trump to bomb Iran. She's not involved in any of that. And if you really want to influence what's going on, you need to be talking about Pete Hegseth or Donald Trump or Mark Wayne Mullen right now. Nope. That's not where the money's at. And there's a bunch of conspiracies about it, but it could just be that people chase after what gets the viewership. They struck a gold mine with this because women are interested in it and men. So if you've got 80% male viewers, but you add so many female viewers that you shift to 60% female, your audience is skyrocketing, your RPMs are going through the roof, and you're going to be rich. I wish you the best of luck. Let's go to Rumble Rants and Super Chats, my friends. Smash that like button. Share the show with everyone in your life you've ever met. We got that uncensored portion of the show coming up in just about 11 or so minutes at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. I will briefly mention that we have this post on X where they're announcing they are now going to rev share based on your home country to stop foreigners from talking about American politics.
Go.
Back
This is
when
going
I
to be
played
epic.
video games, they used to have like these servers for like, oh, just North America, oh, Asia server, oh, Europe server, Africa server. We need that with social media.
No, we need
Everybody
region
stays-
blocking. I am going to block everyone outside of like 10 countries.
Real.
United States, Canada, UK, you're good. France, Germany, the Netherlands, it's fine. But for the most part, that's 95% of my audience.
We don't only need physical borders, we need virtual borders as well.
Indeed.
Unironically, yeah.
Let's grab some of these. We got Mac. He says, we have had service for citizenship for a long time, but they still have to pass the citizenship test. I had a buddy that was serving to get citizenship when I served over 20 years ago. Indeed. Junior Rod says, is that what it is? J.R. Rod? Tate has never had true Mexican food. Tate has had American Mexican food. He needs to eat a torta or a pozole.
Yo, go eat a torta,
Go
bro.
eat that's not
Pozole.
No, they're not eating this in Mexico. In Mexico, the Mexican food's really good. I'm talking about American Mexican food is literally the same generic slop over and over again. And I can't.
You mean like Taco Bell?
Not even Taco Bell's fantastic.
It is. I was about to strike you.
Taco Bell's American food.
That's right.
It's like the Tex-Mex.
Damn right.
It's like the same. Like
Dude, hard shell tacos don't exist. That's an American invention.
Mexico,
We made that.
it's just meat on a corn tortilla, and I'm like, fine. That's I like that. I enjoy it.
Crunchwrap
Cilantro.
Supreme is probably the best Mexican food that was ever created.
That's not Mexican. That's American.
Well, it's an Americanized version
No,
of
it's not.
Mexican food. We bastardized their food and made
No, we
it
didn't.
better.
That is no equivalent in Mexico. Burritos are Tex-Mex.
Because we do it better than
No. Elaad, the flour tortilla wrap, okay, that was invented in America, not in Mexico. Do you understand that, right?
Yeah.
That's Tex-Mex. They don't have burritos in Mexico.
We bastardized their food and made a better version of it.
No. What don't you understand? We invented that.
Tex-Mex.
Tex-Mex is Texas. Texas, not Mexico.
Yeah, but there were Mexicans in Texas, as I understand, who made Tex-Mex.
The burrito is an a Texan creation. It is not Mexico.
The best Mexican food,
When
authentic
you go to Mexico,
Mexican.
they're eating chicken and rice.
I don't go to Mexico.
That's why I'm saying the best authentic Mexican food is Chipotle. Qdoba's at a close second.
I don't even know if Chipotle counts.
Oh, that's authentic, 100%.
Burritos, again, it's Tex-Mex.
No,
People
that's
think
authentic.
burritos are Mexican food, and you go to Mexico, and they're like, a what? You're like a burrito, and they're like,
You can't on the ethnic food stuff. You just can never
Bro,
win.
if
If you're a
you-
white person,
if
you
you-
can never win.
Bro, if
it's like a
you-
losing battle. No matter
ordering-
what take you have, it's wrong.
ordering a burrito in Mexico is like ordering veal. You're basically saying, give me baby donkey meat. You know, burrito means baby donkey.
You just can't win. You can't. I really like. No, that's not authentic. Or that's the problem is you haven't had real Mexican food. I'm like, what am I supposed to eat? I hate it. I'm sorry. I don't like it.
Chicken and rice, bro.
Oh my
Chicken and rice. That's what
That's every brown country. That's what they eat. That's what they eat. Oh, in my country, we eat chicken and rice. Are you all bodybuilders now? Like, what's going on? I can't handle it anymore.
That is like what people eat everywhere.
That's the brown belt. They all eat the same variation of chicken and rice and a certain spice.
It's true. I went to Brazil and I was like, let's get Brazilian food. And my friend was like, you want real Brazilian food? And I was like, yeah. It was steak and rice.
Yeah, it's steak and rice.
Steak and rice. But they do put a little cornmeal on top.
Oh, that's how we differentiate from the Philippines. It's like, okay, all right. Can I get some Italian food, maybe French or?
And then he was like, do you want to have guacamole? And I was like, sure. And he bought an avocado that was this big. And I was like, what the is that thing? He's like, it's avocado. And I was like, it's massive. And he was like, what do you mean? And then I was like, bro, our avocados are like this big. Yeah. And he's like, no, avocados, they're big. It was amazing. And then we put like a cup of lemon juice on it, and it was the best thing ever. That's right. You just mash it up, you dump lemon juice or lime juice or whatever. All right, let's grab some more. Crispy Joe says, as someone who takes CBD THC as a sleep aid, I don't see the big issue with marijuana. It is an illegal drug, okay? It's a crime. You're a criminal. I'm kidding.
So true. Unironically, yeah.
All right. Dem Nuts says, did anyone else get over $20,000 back on taxes this year? Here's a tip for the boys. Sorry, I can't do more. Oh, wow.
Dude, you're going to get audited for saying that.
I don't get refunds. The way it works when you're running a business is that you pay quarterly, and that's it. There's no such thing as a refund anymore at a certain point. That's another thing Andrew Tate should point out. When you're rich, you don't file taxes the same way. I don't file once a year. I file every quarter. Yeah. And then at the end of the year, they just say you overpaid, and we'll apply it to next year's taxes. I think I've overpaid probably like an insane amount.
I'm still
Business owners,
$1 million,
and contractors do quarterly, but
you're legally obligated to. They will
W2
fine you.
People do the.
No, I'm still a
yearly fine.
wage cuck W2 American.
Andrew Tate says, if you know how much money you have, you are poor.
I do. I have not that much.
Same old man says, Tim, go outside and talk to people in town, cities, and so forth. They will give you a better idea of how popular Trump is or not. Indeed. And that's literally what I do all the time. I go out every weekend to various poker rooms, of course. And one of the things that I and everybody loves at the poker table is sitting down with usually 7 other people, because a lot of poker rooms, they make more money if they do 8 max instead of 9-seaters. And then you're sitting with a random group of people, and everyone's talking, and it's a lot of fun. And that's why old guys do it. They call them old man coffee. You go to a poker table, there's going to be 3 old retirees, and they're there because they want friends. And then all their friends are dead, so they can sit down and they can talk with people and, have some social engagement. And it is very nice. It is very nice, to play with these guys. And then you talk, and you find that, I got to be honest, I find that most people I talk to similarly agree with what I've been saying. Even the people who are like, I like Trump, like me, I like Trump. I think Trump's the best president of my lifetime. I think he's had a series of blunders, and he's hurting really greatly among moderates. I sit down with some young guys, varying ages, old guys, and they all say the same thing. Yeah, Trump's a lot better, but man, this is not looking good, and the economy's not doing well, and young men are struggling, and they're frustrated because all of these hoes are getting bailed out by these Christian guys.
My bad.
You can hear it.
Sorry, guys.
That's how we get that reproduction rate back up.
Salty Pete says, guys, the SAVE Act is pivotal in saving our republic. Then why isn't America First crowd, Benny Crowder, you, et cetera, putting all pressure on the GOP 24/7? Take responsibility. You command millions. We talk about it all the time. What do you think? What are you going to do? What are you going to do, huh? Trump said he won't pass any legislation. He won't sign anything until the SAVE Act is passed. And they said, screw off. Because they're basically like, oh boy, if you hold out for a couple more months, Trump's cooked.
You know what the cynical hot take here is? This SAVE Act is just more distraction from the Iran war.
I think it was good to let all the everyone's been debating the SAVE Act online instead of actually debating the Iran war. So for the White House, I actually think it's a good thing to have this Save America Act debate going on.
Yeah, draw away attention.
All right, let's go. We got Electric Chimera saying, as is tradition, I'm in the hospital with my wife having our first child, our son Ray. Spin the UFO.
Hey, let's go. Right. Let's go. Welcome to the world, little patriot. Here we go. Bang.
I'm trying. Too far away. Can you see it? Oh, yeah. That harkens back to the olden days of 2020, when the table was much smaller and there were only 2 people, and rarely did we have a guest.
And there was in the UFO Gmail account.
Here's the secret. The original purpose of this show, Timcast IRL, was I have a van that I had built, and I had talked about this on Rogan. It has solar panels. It's actually outside. It still works and everything. It's got electric. It's got so much juice from the solar panels that it will never run out of power because it just something like. And I had actually produced my morning show from it when I was on a road trip to go to Texas to join Joe Rogan. And Timcast IRL in real life was going to be, I would do my show from this mobile sleeper van and then pull up somewhere and say, hey, guys, I'm currently in this place. Come hang out, and we're going to do a real conversation where I put up a table and anybody can come and we can have a conversation about anything. And then COVID happened. So the channel had like 78,000 subscribers on it because I was like, check out the van. And like, you could look at the first videos, it was like I had the van. COVID happened and it was like, okay, well, now we can't go anywhere. So then the idea was I have nothing to do with the other half of my day. So I wake up, I do my morning show, everything's great. And then I'm playing World of Warcraft. I was playing World of Warcraft Legion, I believe at the time. And then I was like, the easiest way to do more segments would be to just do a live stream with my buddy. And then we would just do 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and we can pick anything. And the original idea was going to be weird and wild, wacky, interesting stories and conspiracy. And then because of the nature of COVID, it turned into news, politics, and commentary. And that's how we ended up where we are with this show. And now that's all over. So there we go. Let's grab a couple more of these. What do we got here? All right, let's see. That one gamer says Trump should send the Chirac Special Forces with Tim leading the charge. Tim can be the company commander for O-Block. There are a lot of gangbangers, and let's just call them listless young men in Chicago. Man, you drop those guys. Drop them into Iran. Man, that'll be wild.
YN Brigade. Storming the shores. I like it.
What's the name of the guy who got shot, the O-Block rapper?
King Von.
There we go, Vaughn.
Yeah. For Vaughn! Come on, guys, charge! That's how they talk.
From 83rd?
That's how the listless young men talk. Come on, guys, let's band together and let's take down this Nazi regime, guys. Let's get them.
S.A. Federale says random, but in the Army, it's legit that the bees constantly have to get shaving profiles for irritation. It's like getting ashy or something, IDK.
The blacks.
They look like Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Oh, you smell honeybees.
No, it's a serious issue. I think
no,
we
it
need
is.
a black person.
If you go to Walgreens, there's like 80 different products to help them with the neck.
The ingrown hairs are
I have that problem too.
Let's grab one more. We got Grandma.
It is.
Only 3 to 4% of Iran's population support the IRGC. All opposition factions have agreed Crown Prince will lead the transition government. Watch 2C TV to get educated on the immortal guard.
The Crown Prince isn't coming back. The president says that he wants somebody from in Iran, not somebody from Virginia.
And Trump has been talking about the parliamentary speaker, I guess.
Yeah,
as an
somebody in Iran.
You guys are idiots. You're not watching this really obscure YouTube channel for what's really going on in Iran.
All right, guys. We are going to go to the uncensored portion of the show over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. So smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you've ever met. Because it's important, I suppose. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Carolyn, do you want to shout anything out?
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Right on.
Good evening, everybody. Elaad Eliyahu, white man, White House reporter. Thanks for having me, Tim. It was a good time. Caroline, it's been fun to chat. Tate, how's it going?
Yeah, X and Instagram at Real Tate Brown, and I'll be back tomorrow for the Timcast News, Noon Live. Also, where can people find you, like on Twitter and stuff?
So just at Caroline Wren on X and True Social.
Love it.
All right. Carter Banks. You can follow me at Carter Banks on X, and Instagram was just Carter Banks with a 4L because someone else took it. Follow our label Trash House Records on YouTube at Trash House Records. Tim.
We'll see you all over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL in about 30 seconds. Thanks for hanging out.